accept the result of this election?
I will look at it at the time. I'm not looking at anything now. I'll look at it at the time.
Are you saying you're not prepared now to commit
What
to
I'm
that
saying
principle?
is that I will tell you at the time. I'll keep you in suspense.
Will totally accept the results of this great and historic presidential election if I win.
Good Sunday morning, folks, for you guys who are filtering in. As you see in the monitor behind yours truly, your humble correspondent, why the hell would we ask a question like that? What is a cult? What is a political cult? In politics, what does it mean? We're going to be talking about the definition, and obviously you understand why this is coming up. But is this something that is a liberal creation? Or is it backed up in validity based on what we have seen over last 4, 6, 8, 10 years? What is it? Why are they saying this? Let's talk about it. Obviously, as you may know, my preferred audience is MAGA. We do not ban, we do not censor, we do not block. So I would absolutely love to hear from MAGA in the box. Just simply trying to give your best spiel on why this is even coming up. So the first question we do want to know is, what is the actual definition of a cult? So I'm going to pull that up. A system of religious veneration and devotion towards a particular figure or object. That means I suppose you could also have that same adoration towards an object. That's the noun version of it. I'm just simply looking on Google because I'm trying to figure that out. What the hell is a cult? I look in Real Money Jiggles in the comments says a cult can't understand legal or logical thinking. Thank you for that. I like the acronyms of that. 505 Riot says Black Lives Matter is a cult. Interesting. Okay, I would certainly love to have you in the box to explain that. I've never heard that before. And Six Pack 50 says Obama lead is a cult. Okay, fair enough. Are there members, or better yet, voters who supported President Obama that have cult-like leanings? My guess is you'd probably be right. And that's what we're talking about. Why is this coming up? I see PJ in the comments is saying MAGA is not a cult. It's interesting you would say that because that is where that word is currently being used substantially these days. And that's what we're going to be talking about is why are folks suggesting that somehow MAGA is a cult?
My people are so smart. And you know what else they say about my people? The polls. They say, I have the most loyal people. Did you ever see that? Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay?
Why would a presidential candidate, and at the time President Trump was still a political candidate, suggest that he could take the life of someone in the middle of a heavily crowded location and still not lose supporters? That's not coming from a liberal. That's not coming from a political analyst or talking head. That's coming from the candidate himself. What would make him feel so comfortable as to make a statement like that? Just wondering. If you knew the history of the Democrat Party, you would understand why we all support Trump. Because PJ, finish that comment, and you're welcome in the box anytime, PJ. Let's go to Streets. And I got to bring in my chart. I don't want to die. Okay, Streets, can you hear me? Good morning. Happy Sunday to you.
Hey, good morning. Happy Sunday. How are you?
I'm doing good. My screen may shake as I plug in my charger. What's on your mind? What is a political cult?
So, yeah, this is what I'd like to know because everybody says ultra MAGA, MAGA this, ultra MAGA, but nobody yet gives the definition of what is ultra MAGA. What does it mean to be ultra MAGA? Like, what do you have to believe in to be ultra MAGA?
Obviously we know MAGA tends to support Trump. Obviously the acronyms MAGA, meaning Make America Great Again, has become unanimous with Trump. Just like you can have any symbol or any word become unanimous with, because keep in mind, Reagan And I believe also President Clinton, during their campaigns, used the slogan, Make America Great. In fact, I had a show where they were wearing buttons that said Make America Great in the 1980 Ronald Reagan campaign. So it's not something that Trump made up, but it probably will be permanently associated with him. So what is Ultra MAGA? Someone similar to what we're talking about here, if you listen to Biden's definition, that believes in MAGA to a fault, as if there is nothing else in existence.
But what is it? What is MAGA? Like besides Make America Great, what do they think people who voted for Trump stand for? Do they think I want to take away people's rights to marry, people's rights to do what they want? No, that's not what we're about. We're not trying to go after contraceptive like they say they are. That's a fargan lie. You know,
Okay.
I believe in passing out free contraceptive for everybody because we can avoid 99% of this abortion problem that everybody's talking about. And if two parties were, how do you put it, responsible acting adults, besides
Okay.
SA and R. But this ultra MAGA thing, and I hate being classified because I'm not a supporter. I'm just a voter. I voted for somebody because I like their politics or what they stand for and keeping America the way it should be. Yes, we evolved. This country and no country was found on the backs of kindness. Everybody was taught about history. I don't know when people stopped teaching about history, but
Well,
we got to move
let me
past
give it to
this.
you. Let me give it to you this way. If you are a Republican, you tend to have a set of principles you go by, protecting the sanctity of life in regards to the unborn. You may be pro-military. You may be strongly Christian based. Those tend to be Republican ideals. However, when they suggest ultra MAGA, it and I'm just giving you my analysis on it. You can tell me where I may be getting this wrong, but we tend to see this on the outside as simply following Trump as opposed to those Republican ideals. In other words, regardless of what your principles are, if Trump presents an ideal that's totally opposite to your principles, you tend to go with him, such as inviting Kim Jong Un to the White House. That probably would have not been very popular with any other president, or suggesting that the intelligence agencies has gotten it wrong and we believe what Vladimir Putin is saying over the intelligence agencies. Whereas the Republican principles were fairly anti-Soviet Union, take Ronald Reagan, Gorbachev tear down his wall, and anti-Russia. But when Trump suggested we need to look at Putin in a different light, the entire mindset changed. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but how do you explain? Like, I don't know. I see it as, you know, they were scared of him because we know I like him because he's a deranged lunatic like myself from New York City, and we're unpredictable. Now, I'm tell you straight
Okay.
out, I'm one person telling him on Twitter, please just shut your mouth. They can't handle New York City. We're a different type of breed. Just shut up and do your work. Just shut
Yeah,
up and do
okay.
your work. And if he would have shut up and did his work, it would have been just fine. But he likes the limelight. He likes that. He's an egotistical SOB. But if Trump told me to take the vaccine, like he did tell me many times, I was always taught question the other party, but question the party you vote for harder. Don't trust anybody in the government. And as soon as he said, take it, it's safe, I said, kiss my butt. I said, you take that saline solution. I don't trust any of these government officials these days. None of them. Because they're all
Yeah, but let me,
millionaires.
I
And
guess,
look at us.
let me counter with this. And I do agree with you. When Trump started suggesting that folks take the vaccine, even to his own supporters, he got booed. However, when we look at the way Dr. Fauci was viewed, and the liberals were viewed with the vaccines and suggesting that you wear masks and things like that, when you look at Governor Whitmer in Michigan, the liberals were reviewed, or better yet, viewed as public enemy number one for suggesting that you take the vaccines and things like that. Whereas Trump gets on stage and suggests folks take it. Yeah, they booed him, but they're certainly still behind him and willing to support him. Why did he get treated so differently when it came to the vaccine compared to liberals?
Yeah, I don't know. I question everybody in authority, especially when it comes down to that thing right there. I don't trust it. I'm not one of those guys that sit home with tinfoil on my head, like this Second Amendment argument that everybody's having. If you notice, and we're old enough, me and you, I'm 50. I don't know about you, but this happens
Same, same.
every term, every time there's a race, every time the midterms are coming, every time the presidential coming, and what happens? The guns never get taken away.
Right.
This is just political propaganda to keep everybody fighting, and everybody gets on it. Oh, they're coming for our guns. Nobody's coming for anything. Everybody's got to calm down. It happens, and people don't see it. It happens every 4-year midterms. It's crazy, and people get all over it. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go again. The nut jobs are coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah, but and see that leads me also to the question once again when you mentioned your Second Amendment rights. When Trump suggested taking away Second Amendment rights, why is he treated differently? This is going to the
I
court argument.
I
Why
called
is he
him out
being
on that.
treated differently?
I called him out on that when he said eliminate bump stocks.
Okay.
You have no right telling anybody to do with their Second Amendment. But now me shooting a bump stock, I know they're useless. Like they're so inaccurate, it throws you off. It's not even like shooting a fully automatic pew pew. The bump stock gives that extra different type of kick. I
But
don't
I
know if
want
you
to
shot.
wait, hold on 1 second. I want to give you something even stronger than that, and I'll let you continue. And by the way, folks, tap the screen. You know I want more MAGA in here. Get your boy up to 5,000 likes. I want you to hear this, streets, and then I'll let you comment on it on the other side. It's only a minute or so. If I can get hang on a second. I see what's going on. All right.
Go ahead, Mike. Well, the category you spoke about this, but we've got violence restraining orders. They're called. California actually has a version of this, and I think in your meeting with governors earlier this week, individually and as a group, we spoke about states taking steps. But the focus is to literally give families and give local law enforcement additional tools if an individual is reported to be a potential danger to themselves or others. Allow due process so that no one's rights are trampled, but the ability to go to court, obtain an order, and then collect not only the firearms, but any weapons in the possession
Or
of that
might
individual.
take the firearms first and then go to court, because that's another system. Because a lot of times, by the time you go to court, it takes so long to go to court to get the due process procedures. I like taking the guns early, like in this crazy man's case that just took place in Florida. He had a lot of firearms. They saw everything. To go to court would have taken a long time. So you could do exactly what you're saying, but take the guns first, go through due process second.
So how do you feel about that? Now, that's Trump once again. Now this happened after a mass casualty event.
Yeah,
He's
and he's support.
suggesting that the solution would be to take away your gun first, based on suspicion, allegations, or whatever, and then make you go through due process to get your gun back.
Right,
How
and
do you feel about that?
I wish you were friends with me on Facebook to see what I've wrote about it. That's how. Sorry,
Streets, you're
I went
going
to
now.
low power.
Wait,
Yeah, I
repeat
went to
that
low
last
power.
part. You dropped out.
So that's absolutely insane what he said. I can't believe he said that. And to incite red flag laws. So that means I could say, hey, the handsome liberal might be a danger to society because he has guns, and then they're going to come and take your guns because somebody called up with a red flag law. I call him out. I call him out on his abortion stance. Abortion is a big stance. When he was a Democrat, he was pro-choice. As soon as he went Republican, he's pro-life. How could you do that? You can't make you can't do a lie that big. You can't. That's just something really big. If it was something like to do with inflation or taxes, I could see flip-flopping on. But when you go from pro-choice to pro-life, nah, man, that don't fly, buddy boy. You gotta. It's out there in the
Well,
open. You said it.
now you did support Trump in both of his elections, right?
Yes, for other policies, for like our foreign
Okay,
relation policies,
that's fair.
for
Well,
for securing.
in regards to you questioning his flip flopping on abortion, many folks would argue
And gun.
that most of the men, in particular, that are anti-abortion, are in a position where they no longer have to worry about that. Meaning that when they were younger and abortion actually worked for them, maybe they got their mistress or girlfriend pregnant, they were pro-choice at the time. Keep in mind, Trump's in his late 70s. He's not likely to have anybody needing an abortion anytime soon. But when he was in his late 30s, he was pro-choice. You ever heard that?
Yep. It's. I can imagine how many babies this man would have had. I can't. Hey, but handsome liberal, I don't want to take up more of your time, but thank you for having me, and that's just my opinion on the matter, and I appreciate it.
Absolutely a pleasure. Come on back to any time. Okay, and hopefully you have a wonderful holiday.
And looking in the comments, I see the Trump 2024 comments. I see that Operation Expose and the rest of you guys in there. You know, coming from your humble correspondent, I wanted to get on here and talk to the people this Sunday. Obviously, my name eludes you to what side of the political aisle I lean on, but let's take that out of consideration. Everyone who watches me regularly knows I try to be as fair as possible. I try to call a spade a spade. I go at liberals pretty hard often on this program as well. Just simply being honest, I don't think Trump is coming back. Not saying that he may not deserve a second chance, and certainly, in fact, if you watch my program, I've said several times, if you look at his performance on paper, he should have been reelected. But as the previous caller just stated, there was a lot of mouth antics and just a hell of a lot of side issues that had nothing to do with making the country great that derailed his own campaign. Self-inflicted wounds, if you ask me. I don't expect to see Trump back in 2024. But my audience, and by the way, tap the screen, get your book to 5,000 likes. I am certain you guys think I'm wrong, and that is okay. I welcome you to come on in the box and let me know about that. Rainy Kane.
Viewer of the program, certainly a friend to the program. Happy Sunday, Rainy. How are you?
Happy Sunday, friend. How are you? How are you?
I'm doing good. What is a cult in politics? What the hell is a cult?
So the cult is this person, they blindly follow this person who has zero presidential quality, zero care for America because he was the president of red states. He didn't believe he was the president of all of America, right? These people are still wearing his paraphernalia as if it's election season. I mean, just look at some of their homes. This is cult-like behavior. The
Give
man,
me an
like you
example.
just played
Give me
that.
an example of cult-like behavior, as you were stating.
Well, just like you explained, he could shoot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue and not lose a single vote. I believe if the FBI found CP on his laptop, they still would support him. He still would not lose a supporter. There's nothing he cannot do. That is cult-like behavior. You're not really America first. You're Trump first. That's what the cult
Well,
is.
is it possible that that type of behavior exists? I'm going to give you an example from the comments. Clinton bet in the comments is saying it's because his policies benefited everyone. Is that possible that he was so great for America that people just love him?
I don't know how is he great when he added $7 trillion to the freaking deficit. The Republicans are their whole motto and their shtick is supposed to be we're fiscally responsible. Where are we talking? None
Yeah.
of
Well,
tell me in the
I
first
would
2 years.
ask.
Vanessa, let me say this one time. In the first 2 years of his presidency, what did he accomplish besides tax cuts for the rich? Nothing. Joe Biden
Well,
actually passes the most bills in the American history in first 2 years of his presidency, but he's called fucking, you know, a failed president. Like it's crazy. It's literally dystopian what we're living in right now.
but I have to counter because Simon in the comments also pointed out in Dems added how much to the deficit. In other words, all of the presidents, at least in most of our lifetime, I believe Bill Clinton balanced the national debt or whatever. But outside of Bill Clinton, they've all done that, right?
I agree, but I'm saying as a conservative, when you claim you're a Republican, you're for fiscal responsibility, right? But this man
Okay.
has no fuck. He blew the budget, $7 trillion in 4 years. That's not normal. George Bush didn't even do that in 8 years that he was president.
Yeah.
That's what
You
I
know, but
mean. Like
I have
that's what I
heard.
mean. It's like there's no balance here. And then also people like Liz Cheney or George Bush or Mitt Romney are now the rhinos, and everyone else is Republican. It's strange. It's a weird scenario how he's all of a sudden the Republican and everyone else is not.
Yeah. When you hear the term rhino in modern times, I mean, since the Trump era, what does that term even mean to you at this point?
It's just anybody who doesn't support Donald Trump. Anybody
Yeah.
who's not co-signing his stuff, just without any sort of checks and balances at all. Just whatever, we're just gonna slob the knob and that's it. That's
That
it.
sounds, and that indeed sounds cult-like. If what you're saying is what you're alluding to is true, then that definitely, if you're suggesting that if you don't agree with me, you're not a member of this party, then that is kind of requesting blind faith, so to
I mean,
speak.
just like what happened with Bill Barr. Bill Barr explains the president had no rights to take those documents out of the government. He's no longer a part of the government, which means he had no rights. What does Donald Trump go around and say? He's now a rhino. The same guy he hired is a rhino. Christopher Wray, he hired director of FBI. He's a rhino. Anybody who doesn't conform to that fool's every whim is now rhino.
Well, if anyone thinks that's controversial, what you're saying, Rainey, I want to ask you this comment, Rainey, because this is in the comment section. By the way, folks, make no mistake about it. I do notice your comments. I like to give my callers my undivided attention, but I do see your comments as well. Unapologetic black man, a friend of the program. I want you to listen to this, Rainey. He said, in 1965, 67% of white America did not want the Civil Rights Act passed. He is now suggesting that the folks that support MAGA are the children, the descendants of those people. How do you, what, I gotta let you elaborate on it. I gotta leave that one to you. What do you say to that?
I can't even. That's just foolishness. I'm sorry. That is the most
Okay.
absurdity,
All right.
absurdity. And like you said, it was white people that did not want desegregation to end. It's just absurd. It wasn't based on the political lens.
No,
It
no,
was
no,
just
no,
white
no.
people. Oh,
Yeah, he's saying that the MAGA folks are the direct descendants of that 67% that didn't want the Civil Rights Act passed. In other words, they still have that mindset.
the MAGAs do.
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
Oh well then I guess that's true. Then I mean, I mean, if he's saying that about the MAGAs, which I don't think you read that right because unapologetically black. I think he's a Republican, and he's
No, he's not. No, he
no.
definitely is not. If you've seen someone with the name unapologetically white, you wouldn't expect him to be a liberal or down with Black Lives Matter, would you?
No, but a lot of the black conservatives on
Okay.
this app have those monarchers,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's where
Okay,
I
fair
was
enough.
confused. So
Fair
I
enough.
might have confused him with someone else. So I apologize to the young man.
Okay, fair enough. Well,
But I
unapologetically.
appreciate you letting me in. I know you got a lot of callers. I know you're real. I just wanted to say I was in Modern Democrats Live last night, and you came up as one of
Okay.
the best hosts on this app. You're very fair, and I really love your platform. And so I just wanted to just acknowledge you on that and say, oh, you keep it going, keep it going.
Oh, wow, that's an honor. Appreciate that. Anytime,
Uh,
Rainey, you know my door is open to you.
all right, darling. You
Have a
have
good
a good
holiday. All right. Looking in the cut. Wow, that's I take that as an honor when I come up on lives, and I also apparently come up on some right wing lives. In fact, I go oftentimes on the internet and I look for a lot of right wing lives and get in there and try to chop it up with the folks, those who are not run off by the name of yours truly here, because my name follows me wherever I go. All right, looking in the comments. The woman was full Dunsky. Mr. JC, I don't think that sounds like a compliment, but feel free to elaborate. Full Dunsky. And for you guys who are following the page, I definitely do appreciate that. As I always suggest, tap the screen, share the likes, make the shit happen. A bunch of patriots in here. That is what the welcome participants are, MAGA. But I do not turn away liberals as well. Real Money Jiggles. Question today, what is a cult? in politics. What is that? Now you heard Rainey. I want to see maybe there are folks out there who have a different opinion. Real money.
Hey,
Welcome
sir, how
back
are
to
you
the.
doing?
What's up? Happy Sunday to you, man.
Same to yourself. Thanks for your time as always.
What the hell is a cult?
A cult, like I said, is an acronym for can't understand legal or logical thinking. It's people who will follow somebody blindly with no thought for logic or laws.
Are we
Because when
seeing anything like that? Are we seeing anything like that in modern times to
Yes.
any significance?
Well, when I talk about logic and laws, when everyone's talking about America, can anybody show me America?
Wait. Say, can anyone show you America?
Yeah, I'm a United States citizen. My oath is to the United States. My country is
Okay.
the United States. It's of a continent
Okay.
called America. So being from
Yeah.
America, an American refers to an entire continent. Mexicans are Americans. So healthcare for Americans means Mexico, Canada, US citizens, 1 billion people.
Well,
So
yeah. If you want
words
to
matter.
go, if you want to go by the phrase America, what it officially means, then you're talking about literally all of North and South American citizens are Americans.
Correct. Or I can also
Okay.
say that the Confederate States of America rebranded as just America. And that's why America First is a KKK slogan. They wave Confederate battle flags. They attack state lines to tell governors how they must live. White supremacists march in the streets. They try to bring laws back to the 1950s. They attacked the United States Capitol to overthrow the United States election
Okay,
to
let me
install Donald
interrupt you
Trump as the
for
King of America.
let me interrupt you for a second, sir.
Please.
Are you suggesting that this slogan right here behind my back that I have proudly displayed is a slogan for the Ku Klux Klan?
Well, yes, because United First would be my country. If you take
Okay.
America and you put it first, it becomes AUS, which is treason to the United States because it's United First. Can you ever show me when America's been first? Because it's always United First, unity over division.
Okay.
That's how they're dividing us. It's the best con I've ever seen.
I understand the notion that we sometimes are hypocritical or simply giving lip service to a slogan that we do not honor, such as separation of church and state or all men are created equal. I understand we get these
Right.
slogans where we actually don't mean. However, if you can show me, and I'll tell you this right now in front of 670 some odd folks. You see my email on my profile. You show me some evidence that this slogan belongs to that hate group and it will no longer be viewed on this channel. That's the
If you
first
if you have a look at the past, the KKK, that was their slogan, America First. If you read your Constitution, what's the oath? To preserve, protect, defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. What's treason?
Okay.
The act of levying war upon the United States or giving their enemy aid and comfort. So I'll ask again, what's America?
Well, like I said, I get your.
That's why I say they can't understand legal thinking, because everyone loves the Constitution, if you notice. But I just brought up the Constitution and proved that America First is oath violation, and suddenly we don't care about the Constitution. So why didn't you show me constitutionally that America First is a constitutionally legal statement? Because I just showed you how it's not.
Would it be more technically correct if they said the United States first?
Well, United First. US First. You see, the
Okay.
plural for the United States is the states. The amendments to the Constitution of the United States is ratified by the states. So just so you know, United States is used 88 plus times. Constitution of the United States, period, full stop. United States of America, a descriptive sentence like John Smith of Nevada, is used 4 times in the Constitution. The plural and the rest of the time refers to us as the states. Now,
Okay.
the Constitution also starts with we the people. Do you notice that's non-binary? Amendment 14 starts with all persons born. That's non-binary. So
Yeah.
somebody saying trans rights or LGBT or women's rights, isn't that being divisive to put a word on something to create division when every US citizen has got the exact same rights? So if I put the word trans on it, it creates division, and then hopefully people won't actually enforce or invoke their rights because people don't know their
Wait a
Constitution.
minute. You'd have to, and I'm as pro LGBT as they come. However, you'd have to understand that when you have something that did not exist in that day, it's
It did.
going to be divisive. No one, if you had said I'm trans in the 1700s, there was not even a definition for it. Nobody knew what that meant. So obviously, it's going to be divisive when you present a whole new term to a group of people who doesn't know what it means.
So in 1864 or 1866, when Amendment 14 was written and ratified in 1868, it was written after Amendment 13, which is when we were trying to fix the problems that were in the Constitution from the 1700s, because it's meant to be a living, breathing document. And so we wrote Amendment 13 to get rid of slavery. And they had that loophole, which we need to get rid of. And then they wrote Amendment 14 to ensure that all persons born. So did you notice the Constitution is non-binary? All persons born become citizens of the United States. And the reason it says all persons born is because they realized a citizen is an asset of the government. For when a child is born, it becomes an asset of the government. To force a
Right.
woman to carry an asset of the government against her own will would be a violation of Amendment 13, indentured servitude, Amendment 4, right to be secure in your persons and
Yeah, but
body, and
here's the
Amendment 2.
gray
So
area.
bear with me. When they wrote Amendment
Okay.
14, abortion has been legal since 1868. But since we asked for a law, they wrote a law called Roe v. Wade, which was fought on privacy, which the Supreme Court threw out, rightly so, because Amendment 14 has got nothing to do with privacy. If they just fought for citizen rights, abortion's legal. So if we don't know our
Okay.
laws, we allow words to divide us, and we ask them to write laws for us without invoking our rights, we get screwed constantly. So the fact of the
Okay.
matter is, if you notice, all this has come down to a very simple legal discussion of the Constitution.
Okay. Now let me say this in regards to you pointing out that it's wrong to force a woman to carry what did you say
To carry an
product
asset
of
of
the,
the asset of the government against her
an
will
asset
at
of the
her own
government.
bodily autonomy and expense
Okay,
would be
I
called
get your
indentured servitude.
point. Okay, I get your point. Now I'm obviously
Yeah.
pro-choice, definitely pro-choice.
Yeah.
However, murder, if you can define that growing being inside her, if you can get that defined as a human being, wouldn't you also agree that murder is against our Constitution?
So, with the Constitution, to fall under the Constitution, you must be born. So, all persons born fall under the laws of the United States because a person born is not a U.S. citizen or have any rights under the laws of the land. So,
So
therefore,
let me ask you this.
if it
Okay,
is a fetus
all right.
and not been classified as been born, the
Okay,
moment
all
the
right.
child is
Okay, wait,
born,
wait.
if you
Okay,
kill it a day later, it's been born, and now that's
so
broken the law.
okay, wait. Let me you give pretty long answer. Let me ask you this. So in other words, when they pass laws that if a guy attacks his girlfriend while she's pregnant and
Mhm.
they decide to charge him with 2 homicides, according to you, that second homicide is unconstitutional.
According to the Constitution, now what the lawyers might be trying to say is she was willing to carry it full term, so therefore it would have been. But technically, a pregnant woman, she can't declare her child as on her IRS tax forms. So the IRS don't see her as two people. The IRS only see her as a singular person because to claim rights for that second citizen, it must be born under the laws of the land. That's
So
fact.
I'm asking you again, though, if they charge an assailant with murder for killing something that is not currently born, can't be
Correct.
claimed on taxes, as you say, cannot be claimed on taxes.
Technically,
It doesn't even have a name yet.
correct.
Is that second charge of homicide, is that unconstitutional?
Obviously, I would consider it because it was the death of one citizen, not two citizens. So how you can get charged for a citizen that doesn't exist, something that has not even been created yet?
All right.
So how can you get
Okay.
charged for a pre-crime?
All right. I just wanted to make sure you were being consistent. That's
Oh, of
all
course.
okay, that's what
No,
I was
I
asking.
understand. Because what I've done is try to take the emotions out. Now, this mightn't be what I personally think, but my personal thoughts, I'm not trying to force on anybody else. I'm trying to understand how we all get to live in this country because the reason I love the United States is because I've enjoyed it. I've lived in towns that have got no alcohol, and I've lived in towns with alcohol 24/7. I've lived in towns with no plant. I've lived in towns with some plant. The United States is the only country where we actually have a town with legal prostitution, gambling, cannabis, and alcohol called Pahrump, Nevada. Then we've
Yeah.
got another town called Lynchburg, Tennessee that makes Jack Daniels and is a dry town. So my question to anyone else would be, what is
I didn't know
America?
that.
What is America and how would I rule America? If anyone just tell me what the alcohol law in America would be. See, I know
Well,
we overthrew America, which was
I
a
think
king, to form the
here
United States.
Okay, here's the issue, I think, is that when we look at Europe, when we look at the European Union, we
Mhm.
can clearly see a hell of a lot of different individual countries, different languages, different cultures, different religions. You can see that in Europe. When folks look at America, they don't tend to look at it for what it is, and that is 50 different countries. Just like
Well,
you have the European Union, you would never go to Europe and ask that question. What are the drinking laws in Europe? Because you would know they're different in Luxembourg from Munich. But in
right.
America, we don't view it as 50 different countries, even though it is. We
Because
expect them to have a singular law for the whole country.
because we refer to it as a singular country, America. You see, I grew up referring to this country as the States. I'm going to the States, going to the
Yeah.
US. We never refer to it as America. It's only been in the last 30 years that it's been a political agenda to create that divide, to make America something, so
Okay.
that then, over time, you have the ability to make America great again. Which, when was America great? What, when English ruled it and you guys had to overthrow it to form the United States? Or when tribes
Well, I
ruled it?
can't answer that.
So what does
I
so
cannot answer
that's
when we were
why
great.
no one can answer it. So when I say united first, we're great right now because right now you and I have got military out there who don't like us, who are willing to defend our rights to live differently. So right now, this very second, the United States is the greatest country in the world because people who don't like you and me are fighting with their own lives to defend us. That's what makes us great. And that's why I love the United States, not America, because the US is embracive. America isn't. America's
All right,
divisive.
real money.
So thank
All
you for your
right, I
time as
do got to
always.
move it on. It's
Just to
always a
confirm what
pleasure
the
talking
previous
to you.
lady said, you're always
Go ahead.
phenomenal in your lives, and I always do appreciate it. And I think you have a lot of respect for being polite to both sides. And that's where I'm
Thank you.
trying to help as well, bring that unity back. So thank you for what you do on this app as well.
All right, and I'm going to look up what you said about that slogan because
Yeah.
if I see any evidence of it, it is certainly gone. You know,
Well,
when
how
I
about
talk to
just use
you,
the Constitution to find the word America to describe our country?
all right, fair point. I'll take and look that up. I can't
The
have
word
answer that
America
right
is
away,
not
but I
used
will.
singularly in the
Go ahead.
Constitution, United States of America, but the word America. So it's US, USA, or the States are the constitutionally legal terms for my country anyway. So
All
I
right.
appreciate your time as always. You're a gentleman. Have a phenomenal holiday.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
And as I always tell
Real money. When I get done talking to real money, I have nothing left to do but bow. He certainly is good to have on the other end. I always make it clear, folks. At the end of the day, it's not always about winning or losing a debate. Sometimes it's about being educated and allowing others in the audience to come on and pass on points that others may have not considered. That was a good conversation. I've had a few of them with him in the past, and I just feel better having talked to him. Okay, going to Cars TV 2022. I think we may have talked once. Let me know, Cars, if it.
Cars, can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear me, man? You got some good talking points today.
Loud and clear. Loud and clear.
Man,
Okay.
you got some good.
Good. Happy Sunday to you, sir.
On this last guy, I'm not even going to even. I don't know. Somewhere along in there, I got lost in all that.
Okay.
But I mean, you
give me the point where you were found, and then all of a sudden you became lost. What did he say that was confusing or that tended?
Hold on. Let me answer your question you have up there behind you right now. That what is? You can find a cult-like aspect in anything, no matter what it is. All right, like we drag race, like we're big time street racers. All right, we don't track race. So we have select guys that go out and find streets, and we go race there. All right, you can say that's cult like because we follow these guys and we race in these guys' races.
Okay.
So anything, I mean, any aspect you can find a cult like persona.
Let me explain more of what now you mentioned street racing. Let's say you're going because you're talking like Fast and Furious type stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. If you took over a city block and street raced as you are suggesting, and during the course of that street race, an innocent bystander or a child on the street or something was struck and killed by one of those vehicles, would you still continue to defend that street race that took place on that block?
Yes.
Did I lose you? You would defend an illegal street race that cost a child's life in the process, you would still defend that?
I would defend street racing as a whole. Maybe not that particular race,
Okay. Well, if
but
you
street racing
defended
as a
that,
whole.
and that's my point, if you were to defend that particular race, knowing that someone died on that street, that would be a cult, such as what's going on with President Trump. Some folks are suggesting that you saw what happened on January 6th, or you see what the Attorney General is saying in regards to documents, or you see what's going on in New York. If you can continue to keep defending this person, you are in a cult. Now, I'm just here to talk to the folks about that,
But
but that's what they are suggesting.
but I see nothing, and nothing's been presented that I can physically see. Now, what I hear on the mainstream media, like your show, I'd rather get my information from you than I would just flip on the TV, because to me
Wow.
that's so biased. It's one way or the other, always.
Well, I try to
So,
keep it.
but I
I
mean,
try to
show
keep folks
me
from both sides in here. I try to keep folks from both sides in here, so I appreciate that.
show me something that links Trump 100% to that so-called insurrection.
Well,
Show me
I
some
guess the
documentation that links him to it.
well, I don't think I can show you documentation. I'd show you a video. The video is of President Trump suggesting that the election was stolen. Without any proof of that, we have to acknowledge, had Trump not stated that he won by a landslide, the whole thing would not have taken place. So the only reason you have January 6th is because he stated that the election was taken from him. And up to right now, we have no proof of that ever happening.
Well, I understand that, but show me a cult leader or somebody you would think you would have more proof of. He didn't say, "Hey, let's go down there and let's bust into this building and let's do this." He said, "Let's go down there and peacefully." So
Okay,
words matter.
so let me ask you that question again, though. If Trump had not suggested that the election was stolen, do you think January 6th would have happened?
I do.
What would they have been there for?
Because I don't think Trump himself would have had to suggest that the election was stolen. I believe the Republican Party would have assumed that it was stolen without him saying, "Oh, they stole it." I just believe that the Republican Party as a whole would have believed they stole it. I don't think
That's an
him
interesting.
saying,
Go ahead.
I don't think him saying that the election was stolen is the 100% reason why all that happened. I think there's a lot more in depth that we don't know about January the 6th that we may never know.
Okay,
But
that's
I
an
think
interesting
there's
point.
more in that.
Okay, that's an interesting point you're making in regards to even if Trump did not suggest the election was stolen, the Republican Party would have come to that conclusion on their own. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because if you notice, among the Republicans that are in the Senate, in Congress, and various gubernatorialships around the country, none of them are suggesting that the election was stolen. Overwhelmingly, most of the Republican senators, Congress, and governors in this country that were in office at that time believed the election was held properly. So, what makes you think they would have came to that conclusion on their own?
Well, well, to my knowledge, there was no senators or congressmen there for January the 6th, other than the ones that were there for a legitimate purpose. There was no
Well, they
congressmen.
were the ones that were in the building running for their lives on January 6th.
Correct. But I'm saying the party as a whole, not just singling out congressmen and senators. I'm saying the party as a whole, the American people would have assumed that it was stolen.
So I have to ask you another follow-up question, and I appreciate this dialogue because I do want to hear the other side. When we cast ballots in elections, we do it, particularly in presidential elections. We do not simply vote for the president. Generally, we vote for senators, Congress. We often vote for local legislation and laws they're trying to pass in our area. The question I want to ask you is this. If the 2020 election was not held properly and the Republicans, not President Trump, but the down ballot Republicans actually outperformed polling expectations, why are there no claims that there are a lot of Republican senators and Congress people that won a fraudulent election?
Well, okay. If uh, if I want one person to win, I'm not going to doctor the whole ballot. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if I want one person to lose, I'm not going to doctor the whole ballot because then it becomes obvious. So I'm only going to doctor the part I want doctored.
So you believe the Democrats cheated, but they deliberately voted for Republican senators in Congress in the process so that they wouldn't make it as obvious?
Correct. And I'll take this back to a street racing analogy, if you'll bear with me for a second. If, say, my group goes and races another group, okay, and it's set up for behind the scenes for this one group to win, so we can basically take money from other people out there in the crowd that are gambling, that are betting on these races.
Okay.
If one side wins every race, then they're going to look at it like, whoa, wait a minute. There should have been at least a loss here, a jump here. There should have been something. Well, so they're going to feel like they were cheated.
But let's go with your method, where the Democrats deliberately elected Republican senators in Congress so that they would not get caught. If we're going to suggest that deceased persons voted, we're going to suggest that illegals voted, then if an illegal voted in a town and a Republican won, that is still a fraudulent election. You're telling me that the illegal person voted against Trump so that Biden would win, but they also voted in favor of Republicans so they would not get caught. That is still a criminal vote for Republicans. Why is that not coming up?
Well, I mean, in some aspects, I believe it has.
I have not heard of it.
Well, and I have no documentation or nothing to back what I'm saying here, so it's just a belief. I just believe that it was actually brought up whenever they were talking about the election being fraudulent, that even a couple of the Senate races were questioned.
Okay. Well, who in this country has had the strongest outcry about the 2020 election not being held properly? We all know who that person is, right?
Joe Biden.
Trump. You think Joe Biden has complained more about the 2020 election than anybody else?
Yeah, every time I hear him on TV, that's all he talks about is the 2020 election.
Okay. What about Trump when he's on TV?
If you're guilty of something, if you're guilty of something, you're going to push why you're not guilty so much all the time. I'm not guilty of this. I'm not guilty of this. So you watch any of his speeches, and it will revolve around the 2020 election, that Trump is the big lie or whatever. Okay. And that, to me, because, I used to be a bounty hunter and I deal with liars all the time.
I can understand that. So you believe that President Biden actually brings up the 2020 election even more than Trump?
Yes, and I believe that because he is trying to reassure himself. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but like I said, you have to go back to human nature. What human nature is. If you're guilty of something, if you stole something, just saying you did, I'm sure you've never stolen nothing in your life, and I'm not accusing you of stealing anything.
I'm not that innocent.
but we're gonna play this game, okay? Say you stole something, and you're in a crowd of people. You're going to try to ensure everybody, maybe privately or whatever. Hey, man, I didn't take that, dude. Man, I didn't take that. So you're going to be the one to boast the most that, hey, I didn't do this.
Okay.
And if you listen to 90%, I'm not going to say all of them, but 90% of Biden's speeches eventually revolve around the 2020 election that he legitimately won it.
Okay, all right. I gotta go back and listen to some of them, cars. You definitely are taking me in the direction I didn't think you'd go. I have not seen that, but I always welcome you back. I do got to part ways with you. Obviously,
Oh
the
yeah,
time
yeah,
is
yeah, no
up, but
problem.
okay. But it's always good to have you on. Come on back through anytime, man.
Yes, sir.
All right, absolutely. Okay, look at
So wow, in all capitals, Susan, you are a liar, sir. Damn. Okay. Listen, I always let the people speak. I make it clear to you guys at the end of the day, I do not have to always agree. We do not have to always agree when you come in the box, but I am a huge proponent of free speech. So I let my guests speak. I give them plenty of time. And if you look in my videos, my very first video on my profile, top left-hand corner, is a caller cursing me the hell out. And I did not block or ban him, and he still has access to the channel. Looking in the comments before we go right back to the box, Trump lost 10 times. Every time they were recounting and Biden got some, he didn't know he had. Yeah, and that is true. I guess I may have not read that properly, but what Pamela is stating is that Trump lost in court over and over again. I believe they said 60 court cases. And in some cases, what she's pointing out is they actually found more votes for President Biden. All right, going back to the box. Tired of this shit. Number two, we
end of the program. Tired of this shit. I already know where you're going, but I'm gonna let you have it. What's on your mind this afternoon? And happy Sunday to you.
Happy Sunday to you. How are you, liberal?
I'm doing good. You say that with such enthusiasm.
Yeah. So according from first your last guest, I don't think Biden has talked about the 2020 election as much as Trump, but I don't think Biden has been in front of the camera as much as Trump. And you know, he's been kind of hidden a lot. You know, if he was in front of the camera as many times as Trump, I might be able to try to figure that out, but I don't think so because Trump's always in front of it, you know, and he's always tweet. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'm just going to ask you. Yeah, you're certainly correct that Biden is not in the camera a lot, and to some degree, a lot of the American voters suggested that they wanted politics to become boring again. That Trump was so flamboyant and so chaotic or divisive, whatever synonym you want to use, that they wanted politics to literally become boring again. So maybe that's why he's not in front of the camera as much.
Well, just going to your question, you know, I believe cult and politics are the Democrats, the MAGAs, and the Republicans. You know what I mean? Because I feel they all follow blindly to, well, a lot of the Democrats, I feel, they follow that party blindly. I feel a lot of Republicans, sorry, a lot of Republicans will follow something, but are argumentative if they feel different. I feel that's a lot of the Republican Party. Like the Democrats, no matter how bad the idea is, it could be the worst idea ever, but they'll all agree on it. You know what I mean?
Give me an example. Give me an example of a Democratic idea that is horrible that continues to have strong Democratic support.
Can't think of nothing now. I'm just thinking.
Come on now.
I'm sorry.
Come on. You
I
can't.
wasn't expecting it because when I talk to you, I get kind of anxious. So I got to try to remember what my group is, and that was a question I wasn't expecting.
Okay.
So
All right.
you know, my whole point is, I think they all have cult like actions. You know, especially us MAGA people. I mean, I'm just I'm at the point where I'm just over it. I'm done with it all. I'm sick of seeing it every day. You know what I mean? And I do feel that a lot of people are putting a lot of trust into Trump without looking at, not understanding that this, you know, he's not batting 100 either. You know what I mean? There's no way he's batting 100 either. He's no
So
different.
I'll ask you what I often ask folks when they make a statement like that. Do you believe President Trump is the best candidate for Republicans to put forward in 2024? Okay,
I mean,
tired?
I don't. I
Okay.
don't think so. I don't. Um, but I do think he's the best man for the job. You know,
Explain.
but
Explain a minute. You telling me that he's not the best candidate to put forward, but he's the best man for the job. Make that sound right for me. Make that logical. I don't get that.
so my point of my matter is, I'm sorry. The point of my matter is I feel he's strong. I'm sorry.
Got a lot going on over there.
My son just walked in. I'm so sorry. I feel he's strong. He's, he he can. His message is more powerful than a lot of a lot of the candidate or the presidents that I've seen. Between Barack Obama, he was the apologetic president. He went all over the
What?
country apologizing for America. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
That was weakness.
wait a
It
minute
showed
though. Wait a minute.
weakness.
When Bill O'Reilly, I don't know if you've seen this interview or not, but Bill O'Reilly interviewed President Trump during the Super Bowl, and he was questioning President Trump at that time as to why Trump seemed to be favoring Russian intelligence over our own. And Bill O'Reilly told Trump that Vladimir Putin has done some awful things. Trump's response was, "So has America." So when you suggest that
I've
President
seen that.
Obama yeah, when you suggested that President Obama was apologetic, if you truly believe your country has done things wrong, which is what Trump admitted, why wouldn't you be willing to apologize for things that you're willing to admit are wrong?
Because he, it's not a position that you can show weakness in, regardless of you can't. It's not a position that you can admit that you're wrong all the time. You can't just go around. The reason, like like you said, he doesn't trust, like he said about the intelligence. They have an agenda. Whether you want to admit it, whether the Democrats want to admit it, whether Republicans want to admit it, the government has an agenda, and it is not good for us. And in their intelligence, they lie to get us to try to get us to believe what they're trying to push out there, so they can
but
justify for what they do.
Okay, well, here's where I have the issue or the concern. They're tired of this shit. And real quick in the comments, MDJ says, "I want Farrakhan for president." Quit it. Just stop it. But if you want to come in the box, we can talk about that. But tired of this shit. Surely you have kids, a girlfriend, or maybe a parents that you've done something wrong and said, "Listen, I'm sorry." Have you never apologized for anything in your entire life?
No, I've apologized.
Did you
I've
feel that
apologized.
you were showing? Did you feel that you were showing weakness when you apologized for something you genuinely felt you were doing was wrong?
No, but I'm not dealing with people like Kim Jong-un or the Chinese president. Or you know what I mean? I'm not. My apology to my son or to my buddy is one thing, but apologizing to countries and
Okay.
people that don't like us and hate us and don't care for what we stand for and would bomb us in a second if they think they could get away with it.
You make a good point, and I can't disagree with that. But I will tell you this: coming up as a lifelong resident or a native, rather, I won't say lifelong, but a native of Chicago. I grew up on the south side of Chicago and lived there for 30 years, and I would see a lot of killings take place because, well, somebody stepped on a person's foot at a basketball court. You stepped on my Jordans, they get into an argument, it turns into a fight, and somebody grabs a pistol and shoots the other guy. And you're looking at it like, this would not have happened if you just simply said, "My fault, bro," And you could have kept playing the game. Even though that person may be your adversary, perhaps you could actually change that title from adversary to mutual friend or someone you have mutual respect with by simply apologizing. Can you not see where constantly escalating
Why
things?
do we gotta be buddies with everybody? I mean, sometimes the respect is sometimes most of the time the respect is being silent. You know what I mean? That why can't it just be okay to be silent?
Well, when you ask why do we have to
Why
be,
do I gotta be politically correct so I can make this friend or if people don't like me for who I am, then they're not gonna like me. You stay over there, I'll stay over here. I'm
but
not
can
going to
you,
apologize for who I am.
but do you not, you sound like, I mean, I got a very close family friend. And this, what you just said reminds me of it. On the south side of Chicago, wearing his hat to the wrong side. This is going to sound really stupid to some of my friends out here who don't know what the hell I'm talking about in terms of gang life, but wanted to represent his gang on the south side, even though he was from the west side. He talked just like you. Why the hell can't I represent and be who I am, even though it's unpopular? He's dead now. I'm just simply saying that even though it may not be what you want to do, when you are the leader of 330 million people, how about putting something above yourself that may be in favor of your nation and could possibly save literally millions of lives? Does that not make sense at all?
Well, it makes sense, but how many years have we gone where we've just dished out billions and trillions of dollars, taking care of other countries, going and blowing up other countries and then shoveling money over there to rebuild them while we suffer in our own country? While there's people suffering in this country right here, the people that elected you, that you promised to take care of and to pass policies that would help them, they're passing policies that take jobs out of this country, that spend billions and trillions of dollars in Ukraine. Now they've just passed another 1.1 billion going to arms to go to Taiwan. I mean, come on. Why do we always have to take care of it? Does anybody take care of us? Does anybody send us
Well,
any money? Because we could use
well,
some.
I damn right I can use something too there, Tyre. But I will respond by saying this. Anytime we help folks outside of our country, you get a lot of folks criticizing. And right now, you're giving billions of dollars to the Ukraine, or we left a ton of equipment in Iraq or Afghanistan. Why do we always have to help other people as opposed to helping ourselves? Which is what you're saying. However, when we are oppressing other folks, or telling Iran they cannot have a nuclear weapon, or telling the Ukrainians to give up their nuclear weapons, which is why they're faced in the mess they're in now, those same people don't have that mindset. The point is, when you want to act as the world's police and get in everybody's business and tell them what to do, you're responsible sometimes when they need help and assistance. The Ukrainians is a perfect example. Right now, there are a lot of right wingers, my MAGA friends, my beloved MAGA audience. Tap the screen, get your boy lights up. But my beloved MAGA audience is pissed off that we're giving so much money to the Ukrainians. But in the Bill Clinton era, when we convinced the Ukrainians to give up their Soviet area nukes, that was a nuclear country, the Ukraine was. We convinced them, along with the UK and Russia, to give up their nuclear arms. You always hear my gun folks talk about if you give up your guns, you're going to face tyranny, or you could face tyranny. The Ukraine, at our urging, is currently facing global tyranny because they listen to us. And now that they need help, we don't want to help them. Do you see how wrong that is?
Well, that's exactly what they're trying to do to the American people right now.
Okay, I'm talking about
You know what I
Ukraine, though.
mean?
I'm just simply
They're
saying.
doing that shit. I mean, that's how they work. That's the government. That's what I'm talking about right there. And they don't do it for the people. They do it for their agenda. I don't care where you live. They're not doing it for the people that are living in huts and sleeping on dirt. They're not doing it for the people, they're not doing it for them. It's because they have an agenda there. Now, they've got, we've left all that equipment. We've left Afghanistan, all that stuff. We weren't gone. I don't think we were out of there a week before. I'm sorry, I can't say the Chinese president's name. I don't know how to say it.
Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping.
Before he was over there asking to dig for mineral rights to the lithium. Now this government is pushing us towards, and this is only my conspiracy. It's only my thought. Now you've got a Democratic Party that is pretty much owned by this Biden administration is pretty much owned by the Chinese party. Now they're pushing these electric cars, transitioning from oil, which oil was one of the major things that made America, the United States, such a booming and, a growing country. Was, oil started,
Have you ever
that.
been in Los Angeles during rush hour traffic and seen the haze from burning fossil fuels in the air out there?
No, I haven't.
Okay. I'd invite you to do that before you defend fossil fuels. I would certainly invite you to do that. I got to part ways with you. I'll give you the last word, though. I do got to move the show on, but I'll give you the last word, Tyrant. You're always welcome here.
Okay. I'm sorry. I was just going to say that I feel, because they're saying that China is going to be the next power, the next the next, and I believe that's why a lot of things are happening the way they're happening. I believe we were pulled out of Afghanistan so the Chinese could get over there, get the lithium rights, pushing all these electric cars. Now lithium's going to be the next oil. You know what I'm saying? And who's going to have control of that?
Real quick,
of that?
Real quick before I let you go. Real quick before I let you go, folks in the comments are constantly saying you use the word "they" in reference to a lot of stuff. They want to know who are you referencing when you say "they"?
I'm talking about the higher ups, the elites, the corrupt senators and congressmen, and I'm not saying they're all bad. There's a lady, I can't think of her name. I seen her drilling the head of DHS, I believe it was, and she's a Democrat. You know what I mean? I was like, damn, listen to this girl ask them questions. Getting right on them. About, and I was surprised because she was a Democrat, and it really made me understand that not everybody is in on this. You know what I mean? Not everybody can be in on this, but I do believe that money buys a lot of people and buys a lot of things, and I believe they have a lot of money embedded in our government that are making things go away again, way that they want.
Fair point. All right, tired of this shit. Got to move it on. Appreciate you coming through. Have a good holiday, man.
You too, man. Take care.
All right, you too. All right.
Quick, he brought up China. I'll go right back to the box. I won't bloviate too long, but in regards to China, Trump is one of the first presidents to point out that China is a major problem, major adversary of the United States. However, I will tell you this. We continue to blame a lot of self-inflicted wounds on being our biggest problem. Make no mistake about it. Regardless of how you feel about China, they only have enough money to become such an adversary on the global stage because so many greedy capitalists in this country got rid of American jobs and took all that money overseas. Started creating call centers, allowing them to make all of our products. Most of the clothes you wear, all of that shit comes from China. China didn't do that on their own. That was American employers, American businesses trying to skirt U.S. labor laws. Yeehaw! Appreciate that had mustache. Love you. Trying to skirt U.S. labor laws, take their business overseas where they could pay children a penny per minute or whatever the hell they were paying, $1 per hour or even less. And China in turn became a very wealthy nation with the money. It's not like China was on the world stage supporting U.S. policies in the UN and things like that. They were always an adversary. But we saw dollar signs. A few elite members of this country saw dollar signs. And China has in turn used that money to strengthen their military and strengthen their position on the global stage. And that is not in our best interest. But if you really want to point out the original problem, the root of all of this, you have to look at where China got its money. Yeah, once again, you guys have had mustache. Appreciate that. Hard head Herbert. Friend.
Welcome back, Hardhead.
Well,
Good afternoon. Good Sunday to you, sir.
good Sunday to you too, also, sir. I'd like to point out
Okay.
China own a lot
Sure.
of property in this U.S. too. They own a
Yeah. How did
lot
that
of stuff.
happen, though?
They bought into it.
What
Oh,
the
that's
heck
beautiful. Yeah.
was that?
Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
that's cool. There.
Damn. Okay. I ain't never seen that before. Okay, China owns a lot of property, and thank you. Whoever I gotta find out who did that, but China owns a lot of property in America. But how did that happen? I mean, you think the Chinese will let us just buy up all of their country like that? Appreciate that TikTok cap. I mean, why would we let them buy up so much of our real estate?
Because of the greed in this country. The capitalism is out there. China know how to invest in their own self. So when we go over there, they're invested in China. When China come over here, they're buying us. So they become ownership. We become just a part of their investment, and they can kick us out at any time because we don't really have any standing grounds over there. You know,
Well, let me ask you this. Now, you don't sound like you supported Trump. Am I missing that, or did you support Trump in 2020?
I'm trying to put that brass key on Trump. You know that brass
explain
key?
that. No, I don't get that. Oh, you're trying to lock him up. Okay.
Yeah, that brass key.
Well, the reason I'm asking you this is because even though you didn't support Trump, I want to ask you, should we give him credit from the standpoint that he really is the first person to truly point out how bad things have gotten with China and how much of an adversary they certainly do not have our nation's best interests at heart. Before Trump, nobody was saying that. Should he not get credit for that?
No, he shouldn't, because everybody should. Would that book say, "Get your own house in order"?
Yeah.
You have a house and responsibilities. Why take care of somebody else's house and let your house go undone? Then you be a derelict father. We should take care of ourselves, not American first, but we should be in a position where we are doing stuff for us. Everybody cry about the money that they send overseas and stuff like that. No one talks about the $8-something million we send to Israel every year or so. And Israel is a well-off country. But they keep that quiet. Why?
Well, I mean, let's just be honest. Israel also has a lot of influence on America. When you talk about the type of people that are there, I don't want to blame everything on those type of people, but they do have a lot of influence in this country, and that probably has something to do with that.
Yeah, well, if you're gonna stop sending money to other countries, stop sending money to all countries. You know.
Well, but if we stop sending money to other nations, do you think that could have an effect on us currently acting as the world's police? Like right now, we don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. We don't want Kim Jong-un to have too much influence over his area, meaning North Korea. I mean, we don't want the Chinese to take over Taiwan. If you stop sending folks money and helping people, what are the chances they may go to other powerful nations to get the money we stop sending them, and thereby weaken our interests, weaken our strength globally?
But those countries really don't need our money. Those countries are self-supported. You remember when Trump said he was going to put a ban on all Muslim countries?
Yeah.
Have you ever been to the Middle East?
No, I have not.
Oh, the Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, is so beautiful. Green grass. They built something called the Palms, where they came in and built communities out in the ocean. They engineered communities out in the ocean. They got the world's tallest building now that Aba Burr or something where they got to pump
Yeah,
air. It's so high. They got the
yeah,
world's
but
only seven.
yeah, but you're to 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 use that as an example of the Middle East would be like using Beverly Hills as an example of America. When you look at the whole of the Middle East, that shit is not happening in 99.9% of places in the Middle East.
Now, if you just look at places like Afghanistan, well, then that's those people culture. And they got some pretty decent places in Afghanistan. And that all they show the media, certain parts of the media only show the worst of the places. In Iraq, they got some real beautiful places, like the palaces Saddam had gold lace. He
Yeah.
had his face on one of the floors was drawn out in gold. He had real artistic stuff because it's Persia, so he did it in the old school Persia. Some of the buildings was really beautifully architected, but they
Well,
only
but
show the desert.
yeah, but I could show you a car show where they got very expensive cars in the projects. That don't mean it's a good place to go just because they got some nice buildings. It's still dangerous as hell. Now, have you been to these nations you're mentioning? Have you ever been to Afghanistan?
Yes.
Okay. Wait,
Went there for
Kabul? I mean,
31 days until the kitchen up.
what areas of Afghanistan did you go to that you're saying, and in what era, what years were you there where you said it was nice and stuff?
2006 was in Kabul, the place that everybody
Kabul.
was fighting to get away from it by the embassy. We went up
Yeah.
there and set a kitchen up, sanitation, safety, and hygiene. I was a food service technician for the military as a civilian contractor with they call it Project Log Cap 3.
Okay.
And I did food services in Tikrit and northern Iraq. It was right around the corner from Saddam's hometown. We went in and out to Baghdad. When we got ready to leave from in country, we'd fly to Dubai, and from Dubai you could go anywhere in the world you want. So I went to Australia and Thailand and India and all that stuff because I know there's more to this world than America.
Yeah. Yeah. I've lived
And I
overseas.
don't never want to be small minded to think that what we got is the only thing that's happening. I don't
Yeah.
never want to be that
I,
small minded.
I do agree that Americans, certainly when I got a chance to live overseas and get out, and I lived in Australia and I've been over to New Zealand and I've been down in the South Pacific, I will say that Americans are quite ignorant in terms of how people actually are living overseas. Same thing with the continent of Africa. Everybody thinks that when you mention Africa, people think of starving babies with bloated stomachs and flies on their face. There are a lot of places in Africa that are not like that. But at the same time, when you talk about good places in Afghanistan, it kind of reminds me of stuff like this, keep America great or make America great. And you hear African Americans talk about, well, when was America great? In terms of Afghanistan, with you being in Kabul and saying it's actually not that bad, if women can't drive, if women can't come out the house without a man or a male representative, wouldn't you still submit that that's not a great place to be?
But that's their fate. That's their country. Who to say what we are doing is right? Because there's a many of books of fate that was left for each person to have a pathway. Who say the
Yeah, but
Bible is 100% right?
yeah,
Who,
but I mean, I agree with you saying that. Who's to say that
well, they
one
just
culture
took
is
the
right
women
over
right.
right?
They
Yeah.
just took the women right to have an abortion over here, so that's the same thing.
Okay,
Whether you
I
make them dressing
agree.
black or
Okay,
you
I
take away their
agree. Wait a
reproductive.
minute. Let me get in. Let
All
me get in.
right.
I agree with your point of saying that it's not our place to tell someone else their culture is not correct. However, we both recognize human freedom, and we should easily recognize that treating one human better than another human should be wrong globally, regardless of culture. And there is no denying that female humans in Afghanistan do not receive equal treatment to female men. I mean, culture or not, when you submit that that's wrong, regardless.
On any planet, anywhere.
Okay. So when you were in Afghanistan, that was happening there.
not as prevalent it is now because the United States had came there and did their little stuff, and women was going to school and they was opening up shops and they was trying to westernize Afghanistan, and
Okay. Right.
that didn't work. You didn't have enough to change the culture or the mindset of the people because forcing doctrine on people is proctology. What you call that? When you proctotize people. So they're
Okay.
basically forcing Western doctrine on those people. Now let me ask you a question. The thing with the Roe v. Wade over here, where it's illegal, doctors can go to jail for a woman damn near dying having a baby. Isn't that kind of like same thing what they're doing in
Yeah.
Afghanistan?
Yeah. If the Democrats do not use that to energize themselves in November and in 2024, yeah, that is something like that. Which is why
Same
people are
boss,
saying
different
that.
color.
Yeah, which is why people are starting to say that we're starting to go backwards in some areas. I don't disagree with that because just like with the Taliban, rolling back Roe v. Wade is primarily based on a religion. So I
Yeah.
don't disagree with that.
But I got two things to give you before we roll out, because I know you be trying to, and I like the other people, hear other people talk.
Okay.
One, you hear your president talk last night with
Yeah, over in yeah, he was in what Wilkes-Barre, where he was. Yeah, I heard him. I saw the speech on Newsmax.
Did you hear he say that? What's his name? On Facebook was at the White House last
Yeah,
week trying to kiss
he really tore into Zuckerberg. Said he was in his office kissing his ass and all of that.
last week at the White House. Not last week at the White House. Come on,
Yeah,
man.
I
Last
saw
week at
that.
the White House.
Yeah,
That dude, he done flip his bananas, and they really don't. Something wrong. Something wrong
yeah.
with that show.
I don't know what, and this is what I tell my MAGA folks all the time who suggest you should like Trump for his policies and ignore the mean tweets. I always say there is no benefit to picking unnecessary fights. When you take into consideration how powerful Mark Zuckerberg is in the social media world, and to become a president, you need access to social media. Why he would pick a fight like that with one of the most powerful social media giants there is, it's a self-inflicted wound. It just makes no sense to do that. I heard it and my eyes were like, damn, I cannot believe he's doing that.
You remember the story you just told about your cousin with the Deuce hat?
Yes.
You remember you? Okay,
Yes.
Trump is like this. He walk into the nightclub. The club is full. Somebody accidentally stepped on his feet, and he looked down and he see his shoes bumped up. He looked up and there's a bunch of folks. So he just starts swinging on anybody that looks at him, and he really don't know who stepped on his
Yeah.
foot. Yeah.
I kind of agree with that comparison. I do kind of agree with that. All right, I do got to move it on hard head. You know how
Happy
we do
Sunday.
it.
Happy Sunday. Happy
Absolutely. You have
Sunday.
a good holiday tomorrow too.
All right. You do too.
All right. Looking in the comments, people don't like Trump because he tells it how it is. Listen, I agree. The man says what's on his mind. I disagree that he's telling it how it is. Calling Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas, that's not telling it how it is. That's ridicule. Crazy Bernie, Sleepy Joe, Nervous Nancy, that's not telling it how it is. You can criticize the policies or what you think is wrong about any politician without resorting to nicknames. If you think that Elizabeth Warren was wrong for lying on her law school application back in 1986 and pretending that she had Native American heritage, you can say that without pissing off the Native Americans. That's not calling it how it is. That's being a bully. Going back to the box. We got Loving Life 971. I think we good afternoon. Happy Sunday, Loving Life. Have we spoken
Yes,
before?
we have. How you doing, Hansel?
Okay. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
One of the blood pressure pills in there. Yeah, basically, I see it like this. I've been having conversations with different Republicans lately.
Okay.
Well, I'm not Republicans, Trump supporters, and they're saying that every time I talk to them, they're like, "Oh, well, the FBI handed us, the open access doors to the Capitol. But I see it this way: it's like at that time, at that point in time, basically, Trump was telling them basically. Well, Trump was actually in office during that time that they were handed access to the Capitol. So
Right.
for them to actually bring up the fact that, hey, the FBI did this, the officers did this and that. Well, honestly, that whole thing was an inside job, like
Orchestrated by who?
by Trump, and
Oh,
his party. I believe
okay.
that Trump had his hands all over it. He handed the orders to his. That's why they're covering up for him, because they don't want to get in trouble for the January 6th. But they're getting so
So
close to the point where they're gonna fold.
how do you view, okay, in regard now, DJ in the comments, DJ T45-1, I'll let you figure that out. DJT is saying that the Capitol building is actually the people's house, which essentially is stating that they had the right to be there because that is the house of the people. How do you respond to a comment like that?
I say not entirely, because I mean during that point in time, having the election, they're sitting there, they're doing the counts. They're trying to do the counts of the election. They're trying to finalize the job so they can figure out who was the actual winner of the election, of the
Right.
2020 election.
Okay.
So
Well,
there
go ahead.
therefore they had no business actually saying that that was a people's house at that point in time, because it wasn't.
Well, I would submit to you that even though government buildings are public buildings, at the same time, you can't just go running through. I mean, everybody has to have an office and places of privacy. You can't just go bust into, Nancy Pelosi's office and say, "Where's my house?"
Right.
So I do agree that the Capitol building belongs to the public. The office of the presidency also belongs to the public, which is why they're going after Trump for taking the public's documents home with him. But at the end of the day, yeah, you can't just go busting through all the buildings. But let me ask you this, Tex. Texan in the comments is saying that Trump planned and executed a coup. Fact, his inner circle testified against him. Do you believe, or do you see what happened on January 6th was a Trump perpetrated coup?
Yes. The reason why I say that is because everything that, okay, there has been facts, and I've stated this, this before on your live before, where basically, where even like I seen before it happened, like Trump was telling the postmaster general to go ahead and remove all the mail sorting machines before the election even happened.
So
And
you
they
think it's
had
premeditated?
oh yeah, yeah, 100%, because of the simple fact that, I mean, even I talked to my own mail delivery guy, and he said, yeah, like even before, he even agrees that basically before, because he delivers a mail for us, so he told me like this. He's like, they were, excuse me,
Okay, go ahead.
yeah, excuse me.
Bless you,
Uh,
man.
thank you.
It's all
No,
good. It
he
happens
even
to
told me.
everyone. Part of being human.
He even told me before. He was like, I can't believe they removed all our mail sorting machines, and this was all during Trump's presidency. Now they're barely putting them back, barely.
Yeah. Well,
And that
because they want now. You tell me, what do you think about this? They believe in the idea that an election is far more secure when people actually have to go in and cast a ballot, as opposed to being able to vote through boxes and having machines everywhere. How do you? I mean, do you not see any legitimacy
on
to
the
that?
ballots or the machines, I see that it's more secure during ballots, other than having it with the machines. Here's why: is because, see, the machines can be easily manipulated by, say, hackers or whatever, ergo. But when the ballots are being counted hand by hand, and there's millions of ballot, um, sorters, there could be, less fraud. I mean, I'm not saying that there
Yeah.
can't be no fraud,
Well,
because that's
what
inevitable,
about
especially.
yeah, but what about in the case where they were asking to be able to stand 6 feet from the people counting the ballots and suggesting that I forgot the African American woman's name. They got it. They really went after. Trump said her name at a rally or something, and she faced a hell of a lot of scrutiny because they suggested that she was deliberately misplacing ballots and just simply committing nefarious actions with them. So even if you have physical ballots and people physically counting them, they got cases where they're alleging that even in that case, people were committing fraud. Did I lose you?
Yeah, no, I'm here.
Okay. So,
Well,
what about the idea that people can still be fraudulent even when they're physically counting the ballots?
it's a possibility, but not as much as a machine, the electrical machines. Because I mean, they said that they had found that Trump supporters actually had went in there physically, and filled out more ballots, and that's why they're getting arrested right now.
Yeah.
There's a few in a few different states that they've found that it wasn't anybody that was uh, a Democrat. It was a Republican that actually was trying to fraudulently, fill out more
So,
ballots.
so you're understanding it that it was actually Republicans that were cheating in the 2020 election.
Yeah,
Wow.
I do, because I mean, if you actually look at the whole facts, I mean, I don't really see any Democrats that actually filled out more ballots, but there's actually more Republicans getting arrested for filling out more ballots.
Have you
You know
seen the
what I mean?
movie 2000 Mules?
No, I heard about it, but I'm not paying that money for something that's stupid.
I would assume it's probably free online by now, but I watched it. I watched it
I
probably
tried.
a half dozen.
What is
I
it?
watched
What
it
does
probably
it
about a half
show?
dozen times. It's an interesting watch. I would, if you get a chance, it's certainly worth the hour and a half or whatever it is just to watch it. I would suggest watching it. You can view it any way you want, but just to see what they're saying,
Yeah.
and that way you
I
kind
mean,
of know.
I hear what they're saying, but at that point in time, it's just all for them to make that money, and
Okay.
fit, Trump's agenda, where he was trying to, he still, and he actually came out the other day saying that he's a former president. And so if the election was stolen, how was he referring to himself as a former president?
Yeah.
You know what I
So in
mean?
other words,
Like,
he actually admitted he lost.
yeah.
Yeah, that is true.
And
He did do that. He did do that.
they're still buying it. Like, wow, are you serious? Like, you don't, like, I don't understand it. Like, it doesn't make any sense how he says stuff and then he's retracted by his own words, and they're still not going like, holy cow, like
So
Trump might be right here
you're
with them.
actually going right into my original question to what is a cult in politics? Do you see any cult like or around the MAGA party, around the Trump administration?
Well, yeah, because I mean, if you look at
Thank you, Miss.
the Charles Manson cult, what happened with Charles Manson when Charles Manson was, led his believers to go kill, Tate LaBianca. He
You
told
see,
them
wait,
everything
wait
in
a
the
minute,
book.
wait. You are you suggesting you actually see similarities between the way Trump supporters support him and the
Yeah,
way Manson followers follow Charles Manson?
yes.
Wow. Elaborate more on that. Let me wow. Let
Well,
me hear you
because
elaborate on that. That's
see,
strong,
if
man.
you actually think about it, you know, Trump was around about those times when Charles Manson. So he knows about Charles Manson. He knows about the cult in the people in not Watergate, Heaven's Gate. Heaven's Gate.
The Heaven's Gate
So
Code.
with
Yeah, Heaven's Gate.
so with those both combined together, think about it. Like, he could easily manipulate, and he knows how to manipulate because of probably his own experiences, how he manipulates others into thinking what he wants to put out there. I
Okay,
mean that.
love and life. Love and life. I do gotta go, but I want to ask you one question before I let you go. It's purely speculation. I just want to see what you think. There's no right or wrong answer here, but 74 million voted for Trump. If you had to guess from your own personal analysis, what percentage of Trump supporters do you believe are in that state of cult likeness, if that's a word, that you just mentioned? What percent of Trump supporters out of that 74 million do you think are that cult like?
Um,
I know it's a strong question. You don't want to answer, you don't even have to, but I'm just wondering.
no,
That's a pretty
no, I'm just
strong
trying to
statement.
figure because you know what? Honestly, there are Republicans in that party that did actually support Donald Trump, but then after when they started seeing, how his misdeeds of
Yeah,
certain
Liz
things,
Cheney.
a lot of
Yeah, Liz Cheney.
yeah. So a lot of Republicans actually switched sides. So I'm not gonna go and judge every single Republican out there,
Okay.
but I'd
All
say
right. But let me ask you to you don't have to answer. Let me ask it to you this way. Since Kenna's Life 7 said, if you're voting for Trump, you're in a cult. Would you agree with, because we don't have to talk about what percentage, but what about the notion that after all that has happened, if you still support Trump, you're cult like? Do you agree with that?
yeah, because I mean I'd say like about 20 to 35%
Okay.
of the
That's a
Republican
lot of
Party.
people. That's a lot of
I
people.
mean,
That's a lot of people.
yeah, and but I mean I wanted to bring up a couple of key points before I get off.
Sure.
I wanted to bring up that Lindsey Graham. He's out there saying that, oh, everybody's going to riot in the streets, but they're not actually. They're actually calling in even Donald Trump when he's calling out, Biden. Like they're actually pushing their narrative for all of the Republicans to go out and riot themselves.
How is
It- it-
Trump? I've heard Lindsey Graham, but how is Trump promoting rioting?
well, yeah, it was yesterday or no, it was the other day where he was at a rally and he said that basically, Biden is the American. What did he say? American an enemy of the state, enemy of the state, because he said
Yeah,
that
yeah.
America. That Biden
He
is
said
the
that. Yeah,
enemy of
I
the
heard him
state.
say that. You talking about Biden? I did hear that. That part I did hear. I don't know if that's promoting rioting, but he did use the phrase "enemy of the state." He's
But
also
once
called the
again,
media. He's also called the media an enemy of the people as well.
though, that goes into like basically fighting words.
Yeah,
If
I
if you
don't
actually
disagree
think
with that.
about it,
Yeah, I
like
don't
because
disagree
I
with that.
mean everything with him is just key words, like trigger words, like basically enemy of the state. That's a trigger word that could trigger his supporters. I mean, when he says, "Oh, if you don't fight like hell, you're not gonna have an America anymore." Like, those were fighting words. Um, this election was stolen. Those are trigger words. I mean, he really knows how to use his words to where he can't get in trouble for it.
Yeah, but okay, I definitely got to move it on. But one quick
Mhm.
last question: when Joe Biden gave his speech the day before yesterday, he pretty much portrayed MAGA as an enemy of the people as well. So would you not give him the same judgment in terms of triggering riots and triggering angry people?
It's a
Biden
yes
portrayed
and no.
MAGA as a horrible group of people.
It's a yes and no because I mean, basically, he's calling them out because before like he got into office, everybody was all well, not before he got in office, but while he got in office they were already attacking him, throughout everything, Sleepy Joe, uh whatever they called him. And eventually, like you keep on calling this person out, he's going to get tired of it. Because I mean, honestly, I feel like he's already tired of it because of the simple fact that he's trying everything. I see honestly that he's trying hands down
Okay.
100%. Like
All
from
right.
getting the
I got
gas.
to move it on, love and life.
Okay.
Appreciate you coming through again.
Hey, you're welcome, handsome.
All right,
Okay.
you too. All right.
Quick in regards to his comment, Biden simply wanted to call people out. He was tired of being attacked. He'd been attacked since day one. You know who that sounds like? That's exactly what Trump supporters are suggesting about President Trump, is that he got tired of receiving attacks. He wanted to call it out like it is, and he wasn't going to stand there and let people continue attacking him. Only reason I'm bringing this up, folks, is because I always say, be fair and unbiased in your judgment. Call a spade, no matter who's dealing the cards. Call a strike, no matter who's up to bat. If that previous caller, Loving Life, if you believe that in regards to President Biden, you would also have to apply that to President Trump. I'm not defending either person. I'm just simply saying you have to be fair. And the point is, make no mistake about it, folks are on Trump's case from the moment he got elected too. I do believe there are reasons why they attacked him, but then again, there's reasons why people will attack Biden as well. So I'm just simply saying you got to be fair in the judgment. Going back to the box, Broderick, Javon, King, sounds like a new name, not a problem. Let me see if it actually, okay. I'm simply saying you got to.
Hey, how you doing, brother?
Broderick, I'm doing good.
Hey, how you doing, brother?
How you doing this Sunday?
I'm doing good, man. Blessed Sunday to you, brother.
Okay.
I've been
Absolutely.
listening.
What
I've
is
been listening.
we're asking the question, what is a cult?
A cult is a group of people who follow a systematic belief that they believe strongly in.
Okay.
That is what.
What
makes
is it possible for them to believe something like, I strongly believe the earth is flat. Is it possible for them to strongly believe something that is completely false?
Yes.
Okay.
It is.
Are we
because
seeing Go ahead.
Okay, so to answer that question in its entirety is to have different opinions that have been inflicted upon you to where you have a judgment of an answer. Everybody believes that the earth, some people believe that the earth is flat because of biblical text. You know, it's this flat surface. It's like a table. It's got three pillars, right? So
Okay.
when people look at the rhetoric of words, they believe that the Scientology of the earth is flat. Some people believe it. Some people believe it's a spinning ball. You know, me personally, I don't care what the hell I'm. All I know is that I'm living and I'm surviving for my family. So for me personally, whether it's round or flat, doesn't matter to me.
Okay. So what about in regards to, we've described what a cult is. In our today's society, right now in 2022, are we seeing any, or better yet, do you see any significant evidence that there is any type of political cult-like activity going on right now in today's world?
Yes, I do.
Give me some
as
examples.
far as so let's look at politics itself in a whole, right?
Sure.
We know through facts that almost 70% of everybody that's ever been in office there is a bloodline lineage between these people. It's like your mom's side of the family and your dad's side of the family. These people
I don't know about that. You really think it's that?
Yes,
you think it's up to 70%?
Yes, it's documented that it is documented that John Kerry and Barack Obama are third cousins removed. There's a direct lineage between Bill Clinton and Bush. There's a direct lineage that's there. And the thing about it is, right now they hold.
Let me ask it to you this way: do you believe that with the linkage you're mentioning between? Can you hear me?
Say that. I'm sorry.
Broderick.
I'm sorry. My granddaughter's here. I'm sorry.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, with the linkage that you're portraying between Barack Obama and John Kerry, do you think that that linkage had anything to do with Obama becoming president?
Yes, I do, because of his father.
How? What?
because his father during the Bush administration, his Barack Obama's father was head of, I want to say it was it had something to do with oil or something. His father had a lot of power, and before Barack Obama became president, he actually was a delegate in Chicago. So he held a seat before, and it was the passage of something. So everything that's been going on throughout this whole political thing has been agendas set up that every president has fulfilled.
Okay,
You have to
wait a minute.
fulfill this.
I'm still confused, but how Barack Obama benefited from John Kerry. Are you saying that, okay, Barack Obama's father received some type of help from
They
John
would have never.
Kerry?
No, what I'm saying is they never would have put, because remember, John Kerry has not ran for presidency, not once, not twice, but 3 times.
Okay.
And the second time that he ran, they silenced him. He never had a chance. He never had a chance anyway. They never wanted him in office, period. They wanted to keep him in a political stance where he would govern something, but they never wanted him as president because he was too weak. It also, like, okay, think about it like this. When Barack Obama came in, he fulfilled everything that he needed to fulfill. The wild card was the gay marriage thing, right? Because no other president would have tapped into that, because that wasn't their stance to begin with. It was all about gun reform. It was all about the healthcare thing. All of this, everything that has been passed has been a tax that has been fulfilled that they knew that they had to do. They had to do it.
All right.
This country was in turmoil. It's been in turmoil since Nixon, even before Nixon. So, and I wasn't even alive when Nixon was there, but I knew everything that had been passed down is by presidents making mistakes. They didn't fulfill the task that they needed to fulfill. So within this whole thing from us invading Iraq, the war that had lasted for so long, we had to do that because that was the task that needed to be fulfilled to gain popularity.
Let me ask you. So when you say that all of these politicians are 6 degrees away from separation, so to speak, who is Trump related to?
He's not. That's what made Trump the wild card. He is not really. He was never supposed to win that election against Hillary Clinton. But he came in with a different agenda. He came in with a different agenda. You got to think about it. Trump, and why he was so successful, not that I'm a Trump supporter. Let me say that first and foremost, okay? The reason why he beat Hillary, is because of all of the scandals that Bill Clinton was under, and then that she was under. She was under the Benghazi. She was under Benghazi. We know that. The emails. Yeah. That was the one thing that deterred America from trusting her. Then you have to understand that the majority of America is sexist. We're not ready for a female president. We're not. So you have Trump, that is a businessman who has shaky business, right? The one thing about it is he's been successful in making shaky business. Under Trump, no other country has been invaded. There hasn't been anything under Trump's rule as far as foreign domestics that happened under any other presidency, right?
Okay, Brian, let me interrupt you. Okay, let me ask you this. So you're suggesting that Hillary Clinton did not win because she had so many scandals orbiting around her. So based on your analysis of Hillary Clinton, your analysis of Hillary, would it be safe to also suggest that Trump will never win again now because he has so many scandals orbiting around him as well?
Yes, and the thing about it is that hold on one second. Hey, Pumpkin, I'm gonna take you in a second.
Okay. I'm
sorry.
I'm with your granddaughter, man.
Yeah, my granddaughter's leaving. My daughter wanted to do something, but no, Trump will never win again, and Hillary will never be president. And the reason, like I said, the scandals that surround that family name with the Clintons, she has been called several different times to give those emails or at least explain Benghazi. But what we know about Benghazi is that the FBI, the CIA, were secretly working in a country to stop arms dealing. That's why that whole thing happened. But they would never release those records. And she was in control of that foreign domestic thing that happened. It's not supposed to be released. No information like that is private security clearance. It's just like Blackwater. Blackwater
Well,
was
wait a minute though. Wait a minute though. President Trump has served 4 years after Benghazi. He could have made that stuff. In regards to declassifying things, he could have declassified what happened with Benghazi, right?
That is no, because the thing about it is this: when you're sworn into office, they hand you everything. They hand you everything. These people that either served or people that are congressional members have all of this information. It is not secret to them. They know what's going on. They know what's going on.
The public. I mean, he could have declassified. He could have declassified Benghazi to the American public.
No, that would have been where we would have failed as he would have failed as a president during that time. If he'd have released those documents to say that the FBI that we don't trust, some people don't trust, the CIA that some people don't trust, were in a foreign country to stop arms dealing, and knowing that the CIA and the FBI are aiding some of these small countries to fight against tyranny, they are right.
No, I'm not. Wait a minute. I'm not looking this way because I don't agree with you. I'm looking this way because I'm wondering why would that be a shock? We've known that since probably World War II. Yeah. We do that constantly. We go to other countries and aid folks. That's nothing new. That's nothing special.
But the thing about it is this: when you look at certain people, MAGA people that don't support America going into foreign countries and offering aid, to know that the FBI, the CIA is aiding these people, and they're giving them that they're stopping a trade to, or like let's say one country or one small town has arms, right? And they're trading it with another country to supply aid so that something else can happen, like 9/11 to another country, right?
Okay.
If the American people know that the CIA has their hand in that, or the FBI has their hand in that, then what happens is people here within the United States of America lose faith within their government, which will cause that, just like with January, when they stormed the Capitol building, the American people, or a small percentage of the American people, will actually try to take over the government. And that's what they don't want. They want us all brainwashed.
Okay. All right. Okay. You tell me where I'm getting this wrong. You tell me where I'm getting this wrong. But here's the problem I have with your statement that MAGA and a lot of folks on the right would not support the CIA going in and helping all these other countries. Before, when you look at George W. Bush, and I've said this before, the vast majority of MAGA that's over the age of 50 also voted for George W. Bush. And all of the things that you're saying that the current MAGA would not like the FBI and CIA doing, we supported George W. Bush doing all of that exact same stuff, up to and including the Patriot Act on American citizens. So when you say that MAGA does not support the FBI or the CIA committing these horrible acts behind the scenes, I would suggest to you that they voted for George W. Bush to do exactly that. So that just doesn't resonate well with me. That's what I'm saying. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Okay. So the thing about it is this: everything that Bush did was behind the scenes. This was when he came in. He told the people what he was going to do. Then you have to understand something. They passed laws that they didn't have control over. This is when you're already in office. This is when you've already taken your seat. This is when all of the ballots are counted. This is when you're sitting there, and then you have your constituents say, look, this is what we need to do to rectify this situation.
You think the Patriot Act, you think George Bush and the Patriot Act was done behind the scenes?
It definitely was done behind the scenes. That was not an agenda when he came into office. That happened, what, a year after?
And he
That happened
served
a
seven
whole
more.
year.
Yeah, he served 7 more years after
Exactly.
that.
Exactly. Because think about it. There's nobody else that, think about it like this. America looks for a president to be strong, right? A
Okay.
president that doesn't, it's almost like playing for a team and you know that your coach is passionate behind you. So you do everything possible to stay with that coach, to be with that coach. That coach is teaching you what you need to do, right? It's almost like brainwashing you in a sense. So every bill, you may not agree upon it, but guess what? You follow it to the T. You played football or basketball, correct? Or
Yeah.
so when your coach tells you, you go to practice and you may be wanting to, you know, you may be wanting to do this in practice, but your coach demands for you to run. To be on that team, you run.
No, you should.
You do what
If
the
you
coach says.
know, but see, here's the problem. If you know you're being instructed to do something you think is wrong, it shouldn't matter what team you're on. I mean, if, for instance, if you had a Republican
Exactly.
if you had a Republican get in there and say you should actually give your guns back, you wouldn't agree with that. So the idea that you're only
No,
doing it because you're doing what the coach is saying, it just I got to move it on. But it just I just I'm
yeah.
having a hard time swallowing that. Is what I'm saying. I'll give you the last word though.
Okay, so my thing is this. I just want to say, I love what you're doing, brother. I've been here for an afternoon now, and I love what you're doing. I respect you to death. This is what people have to really understand about our government and the way things are going right now. These people come in, no matter whether you're Republican or you're Democrat, they come in and they tell us what they want us to hear. And what winds up happening is they tell us this, and then we vote for these guys. And then when they get in, they do nothing for us. They
Does
don't
that
help
apply to
us.
Trump? Does that
There's
apply to
always
Trump
something.
as well? Does that apply to Trump as well? He told us what we wanted to hear.
Yeah, it applies to all of them.
Okay.
Every last single
right,
president
Broderick.
that we've ever had, it applies to everybody.
Okay. All right, man. You break it up, so I do got to move it on. But hey, anytime, man. I appreciate that. Appreciate the compliment.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah, much love, bro.
All right, you too. You too, absolutely. What did I say here? Did you take what you just said on this live? MDJ1362. Good question. Did I take what I said? And I'm assuming that's a sarcastic remark to suggest I sound like a freaking idiot.
I appreciate the comment, no matter if it's complimentary or criticism. In fact, the answer to your question is yes. All of my lives, if you go to the Handsome Liberal on YouTube, just go to YouTube, type in the search bar the Handsome Liberal. All of my lives, the next day after we have a live here, the entire live is on YouTube in its entirety. It's literally labeled the exact same name. So you see at the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, you see what this live is named. That name will appear on YouTube. So if you really believe you embarrassed the hell out of the Handsome Liberal, or you made me look like a piece of shit, yeah, you can go on there and hear it over and over again. I don't win all debates. That's not the goal. But yeah, all of my lives are recorded. Okay, old timer, frequent viewer,
friend of the program, old timer. Happy Sunday to you, sir. Hey, what's up?
Happy Sunday or better. No, not much. What you know?
I'm trying to figure out what is a cult in politics.
Oh, the government itself.
The government is a cult. So if the government is a cult, what is your definition of a cult?
Doesn't matter what.
You're breaking up. You on mute, old timer. Your device went on mute. Go ahead.
Uh-oh.
I can hear you. I can hear you. Old timer. I'll give you a few seconds to get it straight. Can you hear me?
Let me see here. Are we there?
Okay, old timer. Yeah, go ahead. I can hear you. Okay.
It wasn't.
Okay.
I do not like to skip over guests, but I had to cut him because whatever's going on with his device. Old timer, go back in the box. I'll bring you on if I can. It's a good live. Shirt nice, and the more I look at you, you're becoming handsome. RSF. I love comedy. I love it. Appreciate it. Fact that you're here, you could be anywhere you want on TikTok and you're rolling with your boy. I do appreciate that. Appreciate you guys getting my likes up to around, say 40,000. Say 40,000. Tap the screen. You know I want my MAGA in here. Definitely tap the screen. Get your boy likes up. 400 plus of us in here. I'm going back to the box. The honor.
Fast.
Hey, my man.
Friend of the
Yeah,
fast. Talk to me.
sorry about your Illini getting beat by Indiana yesterday. I don't know if you watched
Yeah, I
football.
saw that. Hey, it's first game of the season, man. Okay,
That's
so
right.
what is the cult?
Well, Heaven's Gate is a cult. You remember that?
Oh,
That was a
yeah,
cult.
yeah,
Okay, people
yeah.
that are willing to follow somebody probably to death. Jim Jones
Mm.
was a cult. Okay,
Drinking the Kool-Aid.
drinking the
Drinking the
Kool-Aid,
Kool-Aid.
that was a cult. But it's a little bit exaggeration by calling MAGA a cult, because it's like this, but people that that are concerned about the border crisis, about fentanyl coming across the country, people that have
Uh-huh.
questions about 30,000 emails being after they were subpoenaed being crushed by Hillary or acid washed, that they're a cult. People that were concerned about about the cost of living, about housing, about the things like that. They're a cult.
Legitimate,
That's not.
legitimate.
I don't think it's a cult. I
Yeah,
think they're politically involved and they get called a cult because they don't agree with you.
you're talking legitimate concerns. I agree with that. I want you to listen to this and you tell me what do you think about this.
My people are so smart. And you know what else they say about my people? The polls. They say I have the most loyal people. Did you ever see that? Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible.
What
Yeah.
what would make him say something like that?
Oh, hyperbole, man. Hyperbole, stupid exaggeration, and not common sense enough to get a speechwriter to edit what he says before he gets up there. But there ain't none of us believe that. Nobody that believes no conservatives believe that. I mean, and he said something like that's hyperbole, and he's a salesman, and I think he overstated everything. I mean, he's the master of overstatement, no question. But like I said, hopefully, I hope that during the primaries, and it's 2 years away, that we have to, or however long before we have to worry about his ass being winning the nomination, because it could not happen. I mean, it's his party today. But
Yeah.
that's a long time. And right now, I'm more worried about checking the government this November. That I think there needs to be a check.
But your point is that you don't think anybody believes that he could truly do what he just said and get away
Hell
with it.
no. And really, you don't either. Come on,
All
man.
right.
You don't
Well,
either.
I want to okay, fair enough. Let me ask the folks by answer of yes or no in the comments. You guys can type that in. How many of
Sure.
you believe that there are a significant amount of MAGA that would actually be willing to forgive Trump if he shot someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue, not for self-defense or any legitimate reason? Yes or no? Do you think that there would be MAGA that would actually forgive that? I'm just wondering because I
Be
hear you,
honest, people.
Fast.
Be honest, people. Be honest.
Well,
I
I'm
hope
looking
they
in the
are.
comments. There's a lot of yeses in there, man.
No one would. Wait a minute. No. Yes, absolutely. 90% would forgive. Got a lot of followers, man.
And they all seem to be leaning one way.
But yeah, well, that's a cult to me. That's a cult that believe that, because people believe that, and a lot of people say no, but they don't. I know they don't
Okay,
really
let
believe
me
that. Or
let
they
me
do.
rephrase it. Let me rephrase
Yeah,
it then. I'll ask it to
yeah.
you this way. I'll ask it to you this way, since you said that's him not having a speechwriter and things like that. Based on what he said, let's take in consideration what he said.
My people are so smart. And you know what else they say about my people? The polls. They say I have the most loyal people. Did you ever see that? Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay?
Does that sound like he himself thinks? Not saying they are, but does that sound like he think he has cult members following him?
No, I told you that was hyperbole. That was 4 years ago, and I mean, I'm not going to defend a stupid ass statement like that. And don't set me up by trying to ask me to defend something like that, which is freaking okay. And
Okay, I had
everybody
to
knows
ask.
that
I
he's
had
like
to
you
ask.
said, he's exaggerating and he's saying something, that was hyperbole and that he knows will never happen. Um,
Well,
but but
but
listen,
then I have to ask.
he's been accused of things that absolutely he's been found not guilty of, and people still will not get off the wagon of he's the most evil person on the planet. But
But I have to. Wait a
he's
minute.
not.
But I'm not saying he's evil, but I have to ask this question. I often hear from my MAGA folks, my beloved MAGA audience, that Trump calls things as he see it and he tells it like it is. But then when I play his words back to you, you're suggesting that they're hyperbole and they're not true. Is he someone who speaks truthfully or not?
I don't know, man. Does Biden believe that everybody that does not agree with him, that might put on a MAGA hat, is a semi-fascist? Which a fascist, by definition, is somebody that suppresses opposing views. Now, who does that? Who
Yeah, but
suppresses
you're
opposing views?
yeah, yeah. With all due respect,
Not
Fast
the
Pass.
right. Yeah.
Okay, with all due respect, though, with all due respect, you're answering a question with a question. I asked you something about Trump, and you came back with Biden and his statements. I'm fine discussing Biden, but that doesn't answer the question about Trump.
I told you. I know that was hyperbole. I know what he said. I don't think he believed what he said. I think he
Okay.
was exaggerating. But like, it's just a fish story. He was proud of. He does. I mean, there's tens of thousands of people that come out and watch him because there's a lot of people that are not happy with the government the way it's running
That's
right
true.
now, and there's a
That's
lot of
true.
people that are getting hurt by decisions that are being made. There's a lot of senior
That's true.
citizens that are getting hurt very badly because they can't afford another $150 a month on a light bill. That'll do them. They live so poorly. My mother-in-law, how she makes it on the money she makes, I take care of her. She lives with me. So I do, I don't put her in a nursing home. I don't. She stays here with me and my wife. So, but she could never make it on what they pay her by herself. I don't know how they do it. I really don't know how. And is it going to get better? Or is it going to get worse? So I do believe that we got to worry about this country a little more than we're worrying about Ukraine on the other side of the planet. I think we need to worry a little bit more about this country than we do about spending as much money as we spend with NATO. We've had this discussion before, but everybody's got the right to an opinion, but some people believe that their opinion is cultish. It's not cultish.
Well, well,
They're
let me.
being
Okay,
deeply and affected by
all
these
right.
policies.
Here's the issue though, Fast Pass, and I agree that everybody's entitled to their opinion. I think the difference is, like when I played that clip for you, you suggested that's just hyperbole. So my question to you is, how do you know when he's actually being truthful or exercising hyperbole? Like what made that statement relate to you as well? That one can't be true, but this one is. How are you differentiating between these things if you believe that he calls it like it is and he generally speaks his mind? How do you know when he is and when he isn't?
I think
Appreciate that, Al. Thank you. Go
I,
ahead. That's
I
very
think
nice.
everybody's got quite a bit of a bullshit meter internally, or hopefully they do have a little bit of a bullshit radar that somebody's making a story or trying to exaggerate or really saying how proud he is of the people that are following him. So he's using hyperbole to describe how he really was appreciative of the people that do follow him to the end. Now, like I said, I don't I'm not. I don't think he's the best thing for the nomination for 2024. I like Nikki Haley. I like DeSantis. I like people that maybe have a little bit more, a little bit more savoir faire, and a lot better eloquence about them. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to vote somebody just because their personality and just because they sound good. I mean, Bill Clinton got the vote because of the way he is of style, and then his policies. Some of them were good, some of them were awful. But
Okay, did you see Biden's speech the other day?
yeah, I did. I watched it. I did.
What did you think of it?
Well, I mean, immediately, I mean, from the background, and it just struck me as what the hell is this? Because it became So I mean, that was so in your face. And I think he went from bad to worse. He did.
So
I think he started out a little bit, but then the next day he tried to walk back some of what he said, that not all Republicans, not most, not mainstream. Well, mainstream Republicans today are MAGA, man. They're Make America Great Again. They're mainstream of Republicans are Trump's
how did you
party.
feel
So
when
he's
he
calling,
suggested that? Okay, how
yeah.
did you feel when he stated that MAGA are fascist like? How did you view that?
Divisive, and I think it's not true, because, like I said, fascism is one of the definitions is the forced suppression of opposing views, and we cannot go back
Okay,
to last year's election and not see how what happened with Zuckerberg was pure evidence that the FBI did say something to Zuckerberg that made him look, or his team.
okay, wait,
They
wait.
didn't say
So
said they said
what
to his
if
team.
someone? Okay, I'm going to use Dencal's comment and Dencal 22 in the comments. What would you say if a liberal told you that Biden, when he referred to MAGA as fascist, that was just hyperbole?
Semi-fascist is what he
Yeah.
said. Well, he's
How would you view it if someone said that was hyperbole?
because he's parroting his base, and it's not hyperbole with what he's thinking. Most of the left thinks that there's conservatives. They're especially the younger ones, not a lot of the older ones, but the younger ones who don't remember the day when political discourse had a lot more. I don't know. There was a lot more manners in it. There was a lot of things you didn't say, or you could talk about, and you could still go play golf together or go have a beer together. There was a lot more better, a lot of, I don't know, more civility in politics than there is today. Why? Because we can get up here remotely and look at somebody on a screen and say all the kind of things we would never say in person.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just,
Hey,
and that's what happens, I think, on stage sometimes. It's just, but getting called out on it now. I think he's trying to fire up his base of
yeah, but
support. Really
I would,
believe
yeah, but
that's what Trump did.
the way you're saying it sounds hypocritical. Is that you're holding Biden accountable for his words, but you're giving Trump locker room definitions and things like hyperbole. You're allowing Trump to say really
Not
bad things, and you're
right.
making excuses for him.
Not a good comparison, Handsome. I tell you why. Trump was talking about his people. Okay, he was talking about his followers. Biden was
Okay.
talking about the opposition. He's throwing stones at the opposition. Okay, when what Trump was doing was bragging about how loyal his followers were, Biden was belittling how bad his
Okay.
opposing forces were. So that's a
Yeah,
bad.
but here, fast pass, an American's an American. If you criticize, I mean, you don't get to criticize an American because they're in your party and get a pass. If you're criticizing an American, you're criticizing an American.
Well, he wasn't really criticized. One was criticizing, one was, and I know Trump he's pulled no punches on talking about the left. I know he pulls no punches on talking about his opposition. But man, the man's been attacked like to no end. I mean, his wife has been attacked, and she stayed out of politics. I don't remember her saying much at all. I know she wore that coat, but there's a
Yeah.
story behind that. There's a story behind that coat.
What's the
Before
story?
that,
What's
well,
the story?
read about it, but there was a story about it. It was directed towards the media. It wasn't directed to anybody else but the media.
Okay,
That's what it was directed
I'm
at.
going on.
Read
Let
about
me.
it. She
You,
even told about it. Why else would you wear that? Not to, that there was a story behind that. But my point is, she has not been in the political arena, but as much now. I'm for leaving the kids out of it. Don't talk about the kids, especially the younger ones. And that's why I think Obama's kids were hands off. You don't talk about them. But when you get grown up and you're in your dad's business or your dad's in your business, there's some things going on with Biden and his history. I remember whenever he had to withdraw because of plagiarism. I remember when about Delaware, and I remember whenever they passed the bankruptcy law that protected all the credit card companies and protected all his people in Delaware. Where's all your credit card companies from? They're from Wilmington, Delaware.
Okay.
So I know how
All
political
right.
he. I think he was a
All right.
bad.
Well, fast. All right,
You know,
fast. I do got to move it on then.
all right, man. Good luck, everybody out there. Happy Labor Day too. Even
Absolutely. You too, man. It's a pleasure talking to you. Catch you on the next one.
you
All
got it.
right. Okay. All right. Now moving on. Real quick. He was talking about when he guys who didn't know the story, because he was talking about Melania Trump has not been involved in politics. And he said, I know she wore that jacket, but it was in reference to the media and things like that. For you guys who do not know the story behind that, if you look on the monitor behind me, your humble correspondent here, you see Melania Trump getting into the back of what appears to be a bulletproof Chevy Suburban or something like that. She went down to the border. This is when Trump was getting into a lot of turmoil for the separating kids in cages thing. Well, she went down to the border after a lot of criticism to supposedly check on the kids. The Red Cross was down there and things like that. So these were the children of illegal immigrants, folks coming into the country illegally, and the government was separating the mom or the parent that was committing the crime from the child that they were also bringing into the country. Now, Obama did this too, but we're going to talk about that in a minute. But this happening under the Trump administration, Melania Trump went down there to check on those children. When she went down there to check on these children that were in cages, she had this jacket on, as you see on the monitor behind me, with really big letters. This is a supermodel, a woman who made her career as a model, wearing a jacket, a green jacket with really big white lettering saying, I don't care. Do you? Obviously, she took a hell of a lot of criticism for going to visit children wearing a jacket that says, I don't even care, do you? Now, the previous caller there, Fast Pass, is saying that she wore this jacket on that day during that occasion because she wanted to attack the media for a totally different argument. Now, obviously, there are going to be folks who are going to disagree with that because there is plenty of time, as Trump has proven, there is plenty of time to attack the media. You do not have to do it on this one specific day. Melania Trump is a model, so she knows the value in the message that can be delivered when wearing certain types of apparel. So the notion that she attacked the media, decided to get the media during the day she was going to check on children by wearing a jacket that says, I do not care, is where I'm pointing out that it seems like in some cases, folks on the right that will hold liberals accountable for what they do and say are giving conservatives a pass. Because there is plenty of time she could have done this to get back at the media for messing with her that did not have to happen on a single day she wanted to check on these children. I mean, out of her entire time as First Lady, she only went to check on children one single day in a span of a few hours. And that's the time she wears this outfit? And we suggest that the outfit has nothing to do with the actual event? Okay, going back to the box. Kenna's Life 7. I think we may have talked. Nevertheless, good evening. Happy Sunday to you.
Oh, I don't even know how I got in here. Happy Sunday.
Okay. Well, if you don't know how you got in here, I'm going to assume you weren't trying to get in here.
No, but I'm here. So I am 100% against Trump.
Why?
Why? I feel like they are in a narcissistic relationship with a public figure. The man lies and lies over and over again, and these people just still support him.
Give me some examples of something you think that President Trump lied about that should have disqualified any future supporter.
I'm not prepared for this. I feel like this is a test. I'm literally at
I
home
have to
making
call it out. I
toothpaste right
can't just
now.
let you say anything.
I mean, even just his taxes, going on and on about how he won the 2020 election, which is obviously not true. That's very divisive. It gets people riled up. They want to fight. They want to take their country back. He did not win. I mean, just that right there. And he says it every day. It seems like on multiple platforms.
So, so do you actually hold him accountable for the events on January 6th?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you are the man running one of the largest countries, most powerful, one of the most powerful countries in the world, and you're just continuing to manipulate people, you can push people to do about anything you want.
So, I guess the question: did you see President Biden's speech a couple of days ago?
I didn't. I'm a liberal that works.
What are you trying to say? That was not good. If you are a liberal, that was not a good statement to make.
I know. But I do not. I agree with the statement that some of the agendas that they are trying to push are fascist agendas.
How?
And I mean, just banning books, taking away women's rights, the LGBTQ community, taking away trans medicine. They're pushing their agenda instead of just
What
kind
would
of.
you, okay, when you say that they are taking away women's rights, how would you respond to folks suggesting that they are not doing that, but just giving the power back to the states?
I think that they're echoing. I think that they're just going off of what someone else is saying, and that's their reason. I'm not saying that all abortions are right, but I am saying that there's a time and a place where they should be performed. The woman, I think she's from Louisiana. Her baby has no skull.
Yeah, I've heard that. That is a very disturbing case. That African American woman that the baby is going to be born without a skull, and the doctors are afraid to abort, which is going to be a non-viable fetus because they are afraid they may face criminal penalties. But let me ask it to you this way. Now, obviously, when it comes to being pro-choice or pro-life, the pro-choice crowd, in terms of defending the right to abort, present some of the most extreme examples, like what you're talking about in the 10-year-old in Ohio. But what about the notion of the belief that the overwhelming majority of women receiving a pregnancy termination are simply doing it as a measure of birth control? They were irresponsible, had sex without using protection, got pregnant, and they don't want the kid. Do you see any validity to that?
I definitely can see that there are people that do that. And I think that there should be some responsibility taken in that. There's people who I have an 18-year-old daughter that I got pregnant with on birth control.
So when you say there should be some responsibility taken in that, what do you mean by that?
Right, but they're also okay. If you're taking the measures to not become pregnant and you become pregnant, then that's a reason to have the procedure. But if you're just out there, hoeing around, that's.
Yeah. Okay, now let me be candid, and I get your point. Let me be candid to my audience. I'm 100% pro-choice, but I have to always come at it from the other side to see what's on the mind of the viewer. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you this. You mentioned if a woman is taking measures to prevent pregnancy and it still happens, she should be given some sympathy. What about a guy? The guy says, listen, I had a condom on, the condom broke, and he created a child anyway and said, well, listen, I don't want to be a part of this child's life because I never meant to do this. I took preventative measures like you're suggesting. Would we give that guy the same sympathy?
Right. So then they wind up paying child support and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I get that. I think that those are two separate issues. And
How so?
one is a court issue, right? Because then we have to go through the court procedure to get him to pay child support. That's a legal matter.
Well,
Where
it's not just child support though. I mean, they call the guy deadbeat and all. I mean, if a let's take child support completely out of it. If a guy tries to use birth control or some preventative measure and that birth control fails and he creates a child, just simply from the mindset of the public, do we view that guy the same way we would view a mother that used preventative measures and those measures failed and she did not want to become a parent?
yes, I think I would.
So
Are
you
you?
think go ahead.
Yeah, I think if both parties are taking preventative measures and they become pregnant, then that is a reason to have the procedure.
So let's say the guy did exactly what you're stating. He used preventative measures and somehow his girlfriend became pregnant. And he stated, I don't want nothing to do with it. I made it clear I didn't want to have a child. I even tried to use preventative measures. Do you think he should just be allowed to walk away from that?
If she has the baby,
Yeah.
no.
He used preventative
Yeah,
measures. He
I
does
get it.
not want to have the child.
Right. And I am a perfect example of that. I used preventative measures. I got pregnant. I decided to have my child, and I got absolutely no help, no child support, nothing. And that's fine with me because I have my child.
Okay, but that's you
My
push.
daughter's 18 years
I'm
old.
saying society wise, do you believe we should have legislation that allows men that use preventative measures that fail and still create a child? Should they also be able to walk away the same way we would suggest if a woman, like you said, if she used preventative measures and she still had a child anyway, she should be allowed an out because she didn't want the kid? Should that also apply to men?
Right. I get what you're saying. That's a tough one because then we've created a child and only one person is taking care of that child.
Yeah, but you're based on your statement, we've created a child that you sound now you're starting to sound like the pro-life people. That's their argument against abortion is that you created a child.
Okay, we've had the child is born now. So how is the child going to be taken care of? Honestly, I took care of my daughter myself.
Okay. So you do believe in equality, right?
Yes.
Okay, you understand that what you're suggesting now when I'm comparing men versus women is probably not equal.
No, I absolutely agree with that. It's not equal. It's not.
Okay. And you don't think it
Yes.
should be. And you're defending a continuation of inequality.
I don't know. Maybe if there's a way for him to sign off his legal rights.
Yeah, all you got to do is say yes. That's what I asked you. In other words,
Right.
if he tried to use preventative measures and those measures failed, and he ended up getting her pregnant anyway, all you got to do is say yes. He should be able to sign away his rights, regardless of how the mother feels. He didn't want the
Right.
child. He tried to use preventative measures. He should be able to sign away his rights.
I
That would
totally
be
agree with that.
equality. Yes.
So, but in how we're living right now is that I was a single mom. I went and applied for, I mean, I was like 28 years old. I probably went and applied for aid or something like that. So the state of Colorado said, oh, now we're going to go after him for child support. And we're like, I was like, he's not in her life. He's not around. I don't want to do that. And they're like, nope, this is how we do it.
Okay. So
So
you
that's
do
where I'm
believe that.
saying
Go
that's
ahead.
two different one of them is a medical issue and one of them is a state legal issue that would have to be resolved. Honestly, I would totally probably go for that because if the woman wants to have the child and she knows she's not going to get any support from him, cool. I did it. Everyone else can do it.
Okay. All right. And she should not have the legal right to pursue him for support.
Right? If he signs away, if she decides I'm going to have this baby without you and you're going to sign away your rights, see you later, dude.
Okay. All right. All right. Now we're making progress, and I'm just bringing this up because being a liberal such as yourself, we tend to always talk about equality, particularly for women. But I'm giving you a situation where, you know, we're talking about equality. However, it's for men. And the argument, you and I arrived at the same place, but you took the long way to get there, is what I'm saying.
I wasn't prepared for this. I don't even know how I got
there. All right. Well, listen, if you see me on here ever again, you're always welcome to come back in.
I
I'll
watch
always,
you every day. You take your lunch break while I'm
yeah.
getting ready for work. And I'm like,
Oh,
oh, it's time to watch The Handsome Liberals. So I prop you up on that little stand while I'm doing my
okay.
makeup. So
Well, I'm happy to hear that. That's an honor. I appreciate that. All right. Well, I do
well,
got to
it
move
just
it on.
oh, do
Feel
it, do
free
it,
to
do it.
watch me.
See
Huh?
you later.
Absolutely. Good talk. Good talk. Catch you later. All right. Looking in comments. If you can't feed them, don't breed them. Pick 'em poker. I've seen you in the program before. Good to hear from you. I do see that oftentimes. If you can't feed them, don't breed them. I know there's some comebacks to that, but my mind, I'm a little slow right now. Appreciate you guys who are following the program. I do always appreciate that. And the likes if you want to share the live, etc., etc. Amazing. 1113. Appreciate that, Rose. Going back to the box, Clayton. Let's go straight to Mr. Clayton here. All you guys. Hopefully you have a wonderful Labor Day tomorrow. Clayton, good afternoon to
Good
you.
afternoon, handsome. Thank you for having me.
Hey, what's up?
Just like to say, I've watched you quite a bit. First time in the box. I've always enjoyed your program, especially
Thank
in
you.
the aspect.
I appreciate the comment. I gotta interrupt you and say this, because it's crazy. I came up with the name of my program, and I like my name, but when I get a gentleman on the program, a respectable gentleman such as yourself, with such a deep voice, and it starts out with "Good afternoon, handsome," kind of gives me those nightmares of being in the wrong cell, and all of a sudden another inmate walks in there and says something like that. But I do appreciate having you on the program. What's on your mind this afternoon?
Yes, sir. Well, I'm pretty secure with my manhood, so I don't mind.
Me
I don't
too.
mind calling it like I see it.
Me too. Me too. It's just funny to hear you say, "Good afternoon, handsome." I'm like, oh shit, what did I get locked up for? But I'm just as secure in my manhood, just joking with you.
Yes, sir.
What do you think about a cult, man? Are we seeing cult-like activity surrounding us?
Well, I don't know cults. Uh, when I think of a cult and I think of the state of America, uh, my definition might differ from others. What a cult is, I believe a cult could be where individuals, for the increased, say, hatred of a particular person or a particular party, uh, could definitely have feelings that they embrace another party or another individual due to the hate and the opposition to their own detriment.
You
And,
sound like you're talking about the 2020 election.
uh, you know, I like to deal in facts, things that I know are true.
Okay. All
I
right.
don't like to speculate what happened with the election. I believe there's some
Well, wait a minute.
optics.
I don't know if I don't know if I would just say it's speculation because a lot of liberals agree that they didn't have any enthusiasm for Joe Biden. They
Right.
voted for him out of hatred for Trump, which is kind of sounds like what you're saying here. That's why I brought that up. Did you
Oh,
not see that?
you well, and that's kind of where I'm leaning towards. I guess I took the comment wrong.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
that's kind of partially what I'm leaning to, right?
All
It,
right.
you because of the hatred of the other side
Right.
to your own detriment, whether you believed in the campaign promises or you didn't. If you did believe in them, great. You voted your heart and your mind. But if you voted for a particular side based on the opposition, in my opinion, that's a cult. That's
Yeah.
my opinion.
But
because,
give me an example of what you mean by elaborate on what you mean by voting to your own detriment.
well, when I look at the state of the country today, and
Mhm.
I'm just talking today,
Right.
reality, anyone who says we're better off today, I don't think they're really paying attention. You know, when you check your bank account or you check your pay stubs, and then you go to the grocery store and the gas pumps, this is reality for Americans.
Okay.
This is
I get your
reality.
point. I get your
We, we,
point. But I
we
guess
should
I
all
would
be able to agree on that, if
well,
nothing
here's
else.
where I would challenge that statement. When
Yes,
you
sir.
suggested that you can look at 2022 and tell that we're not better off, you mentioned, the gas pumps and what's in your wallet and bank account and things like that. I would submit to you that you're judging everything based on a financial standpoint. I would bring up to you that when you look at under Trump, we had Black Lives Matter rioting everywhere. That's not happening now. We didn't have you had the president on TV constantly pissing off whether it was Muslims, women, African Americans, Hispanics, other religions. That's not happening right now. So under the Biden administration, while the economy is certainly worse than it was under Trump, there are other avenues of the country that if you're not making your judgment based on the economy, that actually are better. So same thing with COVID, the COVID deaths, the pandemic, that certainly got a lot better under Biden. I would bring up NATO has gotten stronger under Biden. I would bring up even though inflation has went through the roof under Biden, the the salaries that jobs are paying. You got burger flipping jobs paying almost $20 an hour. Salaries have went up under Biden. So I'm not saying that Biden is doing better than Trump or vice versa. I'm just going to point out that it's not a case where you can clearly say everything was better under Trump and everything's worse under Biden. There are plenty of things that have gotten better under President Biden.
And if I may, I'll comment on that. Of course,
Yeah.
some of the unrest that was taking place during that administration, I agree. But in my opinion, and once again, it's my opinion, and it's just the optics of it back in those days, right? The
Okay.
fire was fueled by Democratic Party, the media. It was fueled by that, okay? And I think there may
What was
have been
fueled by
some.
it?
I'm
What
sorry.
was fueled? What do you mean? You said something was fueled by the media. What was fueled by the media?
Well, well, the unrest, because let me just say this. I think Americans, the American public, should put way more stock into policy versus words, if that makes sense. Policy versus words.
No, I
Trump
can't.
said Trump says a lot of things and said a lot of things that made me cringe. And Joe Biden has said a lot of things that make me cringe, but I don't put much stock into that, me personally, because I try to focus when I'm looking at my president, like Joe Biden or Donald Trump. I'm looking at the substance, and the substance is policy that affects Americans directly.
Yeah, but you have to understand that when a president is working on passing legislation or policies, as you refer to it, he's going to describe that to the public by way of words. So you can be giving somebody something that is totally beneficial to them, but if you say it in the wrong way, your whole message could be lost. So the point I'm trying to make to you is that your words are going to matter. I understand a lot of my MAGA folks, my beloved MAGA audience, the whole notion the entire time Trump was in office was to get people to not pay attention to his words and pay attention to what he was doing because his words were just that bad. But at the end of the day, if I say words like 7 years ago, or ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country, or Gorbachev tear down these walls, you know that those are words that were very valuable coming from former presidents. All of a sudden, when Trump gets in office, we start telling the citizens do not pay attention to the words of their commander in chief. That has never been the case throughout American history. We have always paid attention to what the guy who leads the country has to say.
I mean, I understand what you're saying. And do I totally disagree? Of course not. I mean, we do listen to our
Yeah.
politicians, okay? But I'm going to put me personally as an American, the policies have much more effect on me as an American and all my fellow American citizens than words do. I mean,
Okay.
nobody can disagree with that. The policies are what steers America and affects us in our daily lives.
Fair point. Let me ask you this other question. This may be a little bit off the subject, but did you see Biden's speech the other day?
Yes, sir.
What did you think of it?
Uh, I mean, like I said, I just don't put a lot of stock in that.
Okay.
Did I agree that he should have went after the opposition? Do I agree that Trump should have done it? No, I don't agree. If you
Right.
ask me that question, I don't.
So you
Absolutely.
saw his, and that's what the question. The reason I asked you that is because at the end of the day, it's just words. So if the president, meaning President Biden, got up there and said all of those words, why is MAGA so upset when that's their primary statement is to not pay attention to the words coming from a president? Why is Biden's words all of a sudden so inflammatory?
Well, and this is my opinion once again. I believe uh, people that's MAGA. I'm not MAGA. I never liked the
Okay.
term "Make
Okay.
America Great Again." Now, if it would have been "Make America Great" and stopped, I'm happy. But so
MAG.
I'm not a big fan of that, right? I'm
Mag.
not
I
a big
like
fan.
that. I like that. I like that. I like that response. Keep going.
And what I think is because, of course, Donald Trump was so torn down, right, because of words that he spoke. I think they're just looking for every little word Biden says to have ammunition against that, and that's my whole point. My whole point is it don't really matter to me as an American. I'm more focused on policies that affect me and everyone on a daily basis. On a daily basis.
Okay.
Uh, that's just my opinion on that. And I think if people focus more on policies of presidents and politicians, uh, I think there'd be some change, some changes as
Well,
to
here's
how they're
the.
thinking. Or
All right. Well,
you got to
listen. I
remember,
do.
I came up in a day when we didn't have all this access, right? We didn't have
Yeah.
all this. We got 3 hours of news on TV a day in a newspaper.
Okay. Let me ask you this, because several folks in the comments want to know. Give me some of Trump's quote unquote policies that you really favored, that you thought were really beneficial to America. Policies.
Well, I definitely like the border policies, strictly because I believe when people come to this country, which I'm totally for immigration, I employ hundreds of Hispanics that come here legally, right? I,
Okay.
and I like to have secure borders because, what's the first priority of a president? It's to protect the American people and the American soil. And I feel
Okay.
like the state of the border puts us at risk for a domestic attack. That's my
All right.
opinion. I
Okay.
feel that's a real issue right now that you don't hear a lot
So
about,
let
you
me,
know?
okay, I got it. That's an interesting question. You mentioned the first order of the president is to protect the American people. I want to throw some at you, and you can tell me however you feel. No censorship or banning ever happens here. But under President Trump in 2017, his own FBI stated that the biggest threat to America, an existential threat to America, was the rise in white supremacists committing acts of domestic terrorism. In regards to what the FBI suggested and stated, that was the biggest threat to America, do you think Trump was actively trying to protect the people from that?
If I just can't think of a incident where there was white supremacy and it was something that was, I mean, you have to give me an example because I can't recall of any incidents recently in history.
Well, I'll give you a huge one.
Please do.
Dylan Roof went into a church. This ended up causing Nikki Haley, the governor of South Carolina, to take down the Confederate flag off the Capitol building because he went into a church and shot up 9 black people. You didn't recall that?
Yeah, I do remember that. Now that
Okay.
you bring it
What
up,
about what
I
about
wouldn't consider
what
that
about
the
2000? What
biggest
about
threat.
2020? Wait a minute. What about 2020 when the white supremacists drove approximately 600 miles to a Walmart in El Paso and took the lives of 20 Hispanics? You don't remember any of this stuff?
I do. I do.
Okay. All right.
As you
Charlottesville?
bringing them up, I remember.
Okay. All right.
But
So do you think Trump, in regards to you being a man of policy, not words, do you think Trump was doing anything to address that? What the FBI suggested was the biggest threat to America?
so I guess the question would be, not the question, I'll make a statement. There are vicious, dirty, nasty people in this country. So how do you policy your way out of those people? How do you control those filthy, ignorant people? How does a policy stop that? I don't know. That's why I'm probably not president, right? I don't know that.
Well,
And if somebody could tell me how, I'd love to hear it. I just don't know what you could do as a president to eliminate filthy, nasty, heartless people.
Donald J.
And
Trump is called.
I want you to listen to this. This because you asked the question, what could be done to stop people from doing this? I want you to hear this, and you 30 seconds, and you give me your opinion.
yes,
Donald
sir.
J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on.
Now, the reason I played that is because when you look at the amount of terrorist incidents from Muslims to Americans on American soil, we're talking about, you can probably count them on one hand, other than 9/11 and the 1993 attack on the same building, the World Trade Center in 93. Other than that, the amount of Muslim attacks in this country are very, very low, certainly compared to white supremacist attacks. But yet, when you ask the question, well, what can you do to stop it? Trump found a way to suggest imposing a Muslim ban based on something we were not really having much of an issue with. But we are having an issue with white supremacist attacks, according to the FBI, to the point where they think it's the biggest issue altogether. And the point I'm going to make, and this is going to sound controversial, and you can tell me what you think of it, but if we had Muslims in this country doing the exact same thing that the FBI is suggesting that white supremacists are doing, Muslims would have a hard time purchasing rifles. They would not be able to get their hands on AR-15s. They would just stop them from buying them. And at the very least, raise the age limit. So I'm asking you, appreciate those fireworks. Thank you. So I'm asking you, why is there such a difference in regards to what Trump suggested with the Muslim ban versus something the FBI is stating that is actually happening?
well, when you have American citizens, which is what you're referring to in the country, doing horrible things, that's nothing new, right? Whether it's in the name of racism, whether it's in the name of religion, whether it's in the name of, I just want to go in and shoot up this school. Uh, that's my point. I don't know how you control that. And just because a president may put a policy in place with, which he thinks is protecting Americans, from foreign. Now we talking foreign. You have a whole lot more leeway that you could do that. But when you're talking about governing American citizens and trying to stop this, I don't know how you do it. Does it
Okay,
need to be stopped? Absolutely. We in total agreement.
let me respond to that. Okay, and I'll let you continue, but here's the point I'm trying to make.
Yes,
When
sir.
we had a big drug issue in the early 1980s, 1990s, and a lot of my MAGA folks even blame Biden for some of this and Kamala Harris. But when we had big drug issues, particularly in the inner cities of America, even though they were American citizens, somehow we found a way to specifically target African Americans with tougher penalties for crack cocaine. Same thing with a lot of gun shootings. They found a way to specifically target American citizens, African Americans, for gun crimes by raising the penalties for gun laws. Same thing you go to Arizona, where they got a hell of a lot of illegal immigrants coming into the country. Somehow, Sheriff Joe Arpaio found a way to specifically target illegal immigrants, Hispanics, by passing laws that they could stop and ask Hispanics for ID to prove they were in the country. Now we are dealing with what they're referring to as a white supremacist problem, which, just like Hispanics and blacks, can be profiled. We know who's committing these acts. It's males under 25 that generally happen to be white. So when you suggest now we do not know how to do anything, it's an American citizen, what can we do? I'm submitting to you that in previous years, we seem to always have been able to find a way to target people that were citizens of this country that were doing wrong. I'm curious as to why all of a sudden, when it's this group, we seem to be baffled how we can do anything about it, even though you can clearly profile who it is.
But Handsome, I mean, don't we have? Wouldn't you consider that hate crimes? Is that
What
what
do you
you
mean?
would? Well, what you talking about? The racist
Yeah,
killing folks?
yeah, it's hate
That,
crimes.
that
Yeah, it's hate crimes.
and,
Yeah, it's
and
hate
and
crimes.
don't we have hate crimes on the books as far as how these people can be penalized? Because the examples you
Yeah,
use is basically how we penalize people once they're caught.
yeah, but I get your point. But we had drug laws on the books, but we found a way to go above and beyond that to target crack users. We have illegal immigrant laws on the books, but we found a way to go above and beyond it to specifically target Hispanics. Yeah, we have hate crimes on the books, but we know which group is specifically doing this. What I'm asking is, why isn't there any specific, if I can say the word right, any specific targeting done towards this group like all the other groups in previous history? And I'm talking recent history in our lifetime.
Well, I think it's a law enforcement issue at that point because the hate crime laws are on the books. I mean, it's
Yeah, but
already law.
you're talking laws. I'm talking about laws that specifically targeted a certain group. This is a case where you know which group is doing this, and you're doing nothing to specifically target that group.
But does it hate crime laws
No,
target
anybody.
certain groups?
No, no. Hate crime laws did not specifically target any group.
Oh, you saying one specific hate crime group? So we'd have to do specifics like for homosexual hate crimes, for black hate crimes, for
No, I
Hispanic, for
mean,
Asian.
no, I mean something similar to the Muslim ban. If you are a Muslim trying to get into the country, they're going to treat you differently, according to Trump, because you guys tend to be the ones committing acts of terror. If you're trying to purchase an AR-15, maybe you get an additional amount of scrutiny because you guys, and I'm just saying this is the way it would be viewed because this is where this stuff is coming from. I'm just simply saying that even though we can profile where this is coming from, they're not being treated any different than anyone else. But even when we start knowing where illegal immigrants come from or knowing who used crack, we started targeting specific groups, up to and including stop and frisk, for instance. I mean, they were stopping and frisking majority minority people because this is where the crime is at, according to them. But you know where the mass shootings are coming from, and you're not doing anything specific to that group.
Well, I believe the drugs, is a different deal. I think it's a total different deal. I think they targeted the wrong people simply because, I mean, this could probably go take a lot of criticism, but drugs coming into this country, there's a large portion of politicians that have an
Yeah,
interest in that.
100% agree.
You
100%
know,
agree.
uh,
We agree
uh,
on that.
and I
I give you the
believe
last
when we
word, Clayton. I do got to move it on. I give you the last word, though.
and I and like I started, I just believe we need to put more stock in policies when it comes to politicians than words. Do we ignore the words? Of course not. Nobody does. I cringe when I hear a lot of these politicians talk with some of the things they say. But at the end of the day, what really matters are policies that affect the American people on a daily basis. And the state of America today, we're, in my opinion, worse off today than we were 4 years or 5 years or 10 years ago. And I don't know how else to put it other than that. And not just from
That's
an
clear enough.
economical, not just from an
That's clear enough.
economical standpoint, but from a security standpoint. I feel like we worse off today, and the security aspect of it has me way more concerned than the financial. And look, the high prices don't affect me personally. I'm in pretty good shape. I'm a 38-year oil and gas guy. I've worked in the oil industry for 38 years, and so it don't really affect me. Uh, I don't like paying twice the price of things, but the my main concern is the security of the country and domestic soil, because I love America and I love all Americans, and I just want what's best for all of us. So God bless you and God bless America. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Good talk, Clayton. Come on back through anytime. All right, look it in the comments real quick.
Cards. What did it say? We don't own security. It was two. It was two comments. Damn TikTok always scrolls up when I don't want them to do it. I saw someone suggest that they libtard, meaning yours truly, that you guys do not own assault rifles. Why do we keep calling it assault rifles? Well, if you look at the magazines from the 1980s, when they started trying to sell these weapons to American gun owners, that's what they were calling them. There are literally covers of magazines like Guns and Ammo. There is pictures of assault rifles on the cover of that magazine, and they're calling them assault rifles. So I always hate when people try to make it sound like calling a gun an assault rifle is just some kind of idiocy from the liberal mindset. No, that's what they were calling them when they were trying to sell them to us. And these were gun manufacturers and gun magazines. All you got to do is go on Google, type in assault rifle magazine cover, and you'll see all of these gun magazines, some of them that are still around that you read and love and enjoy today, calling those weapons assault rifles because they were trying to promote them to American citizens to get us to buy them. Now all of a sudden they dropped the term and you're blaming liberals for using it? We didn't make that up. They did. Looking in the comments also, Kathy, and I cannot pronounce her name, Kathy and Danette, handsome. Why aren't you concerned about inner city killing that occur thousands times more often, I guess, than white supremacist killing? Good point. We are concerned about that, which is why I was talking to the previous caller there and suggesting that why do we target other groups and not this one group? When you look at the killings in, say, Chicago or Los Angeles or New York, those hardcore liberal cities, you guys talk about all of their gun laws are ridiculous. Why do you, even though you don't agree with the gun laws, why do you think they have them? They're targeting the stuff you're talking about. If you go to Chicago, I've heard of cities in America, inner cities, where they have increased the penalty, the criminal penalties, the time you spend in prison, down to how many rounds you have. Whereas you got folks, you can get an extra year in prison based on how many bullets you have. They have targeted those groups. So the whole thing about a felon in possession of a felon in possession of a firearm is a law that was created to target that. So when you ask, why don't we care about the inner city violence in Chicago and other places like that? They do. And they passed laws specifically to target it. Stop and frisk. They weren't stopping and frisking folks out in the suburbs and Caucasian kids. It was people that they thought were committing the crimes. Talk to Rudolph Giuliani. Hey, this brought down crime by stopping and frisking African Americans, and a lot of folks on the right supported it. But make no mistake about it, they profiled the thugs in their area, the criminals in their area to be blacks and minorities, and they specifically did things to target those people. The FBI is suggesting that mass casualty events are specifically coming from young white males, and which is why I asked the previous caller, why are they not being targeted in the same manner? That's all I'm asking. I'm not trying to insult anybody, nothing of that nature. I'm just simply suggesting, as I always do on this program, that we be unbiased, willing to call a spade, no matter who's dealing the cards, a strike, no matter who's up to bat. And when it comes to this one particular subject, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. Sheriff Joe Arpaio down in Phoenix, Arizona, they had a huge problem of illegal immigrants coming into that country. He had his deputies specifically stop and target Hispanics and demand they show paperwork that they had a right to be in America. Trump pardoned them. So Trump was in favor of that, specifically targeting Hispanics. Blacks are not in the country illegally. Whites are not in the country illegally. Most Asians are not. Wasn't targeting them, targeting the specific group that you could profile that were coming into that area of the country illegally. We know the specific group that's committing these crimes. Call a spade, be unbiased. That's all I'm asking. Listen, folks, I do got to wrap it up. Appreciate you guys rolling with your boy. Almost got me to 50,000 likes. I would have appreciated that. As I make it clear, I do not ban, block, or censor comments on this particular broadcast. I refer to censorship as a sin. So if you get censored or blocked or banned here, it's probably because of TikTok. It'll never be because of your humble correspondent, yours truly. You can be anywhere, but you're rolling with me today. I appreciate that. Happy Labor Day. I may have a broadcast tomorrow. If not, enjoy some good food, and I'll catch you on Monday, or Tuesday rather.